People like you should be grateful we let you stay, my father said, sliding a $900 rent bill across Grandma's kitchen table, while my last 6 years of paychecks sat in his pockets. Nobody reached for the green beans. Nobody asked him what he meant by people like you. My brother Marcus kept sawing at a pork chop that was already cut. Dwayne stared into his sweet tea. Their wives went still. Even Mr. Voss, the family lawyer, looked down at his yellow pad like paper had suddenly become fascinating. I looked at that bill. $900. Due on the 1st. Late fee after 5 days. My father had typed my name wrong too. Marlene Cartar. That small insult sat there beside the big one. I did not raise my voice. I did not throw the bill back. I folded it once, then twice, clean corners. Then I slid it into my purse beside my church gloves and touched Grandma Etta Mae Carter's blue funeral folder. I had carried that folder for 3 years and never opened it. Not yet. My father leaned back in Grandma's chair at the head of the table. Well, he said. I looked at him. I'll need that in writing. He laughed. Too loud, too quick. It is in writing. No, I said. All of it. That was the first time his smile slipped. By the next morning, before 8 o'clock, I'd find a 4-cent overtime error on a driver's check, pull 6 years of direct deposit splits, and count $1,500 a month leaving my pay. By Wednesday, a lawyer would tell me to vacate family property. By Friday, Ruth Bellamy would read one sentence in a county room downtown, and my father would see Grandma's signature. But before that sentence, there was Sunday dinner. Let me take you back. Grandma's white house sat at 18 Juniper Hill Road in Maple Ridge, Ohio, 2 turns past the Methodist Church and 1 hill above the Lake Road. Folks in town called it Etta Mae's place, even after she was gone. Not the Carter place, not Leonard's place. Etta Mae's place. She had painted the porch rail every other summer, whether it needed it or not. She kept geraniums in coffee cans and a brass bell by the back door. She had a sewing table in the front room with 1 locked drawer nobody touched, nobody but her. 3 years after her funeral, my father started calling that house family property. That was how theft learned to wear a cardigan. I was 52 then. Deep brown skin, silver threaded through my braids, reading glasses on a chain because I lost them twice a day if I did not. I worked payroll at Buckeye Medical Supply, near Main and Bell, in the low brick building across from Henderson Tire. I processed checks for 186 warehouse workers, drivers, packers, and office staff. I knew who had a new baby. I knew who picked up weekend shifts when rent got tight. I knew who needed their vacation paid out on a certain Friday because a furnace had died. I checked every number twice. Then I checked the story behind it. My father used to call that fussy. Marlene, you'll count dust if somebody lets you. I would say, I don't argue with numbers. He did not like that. Numbers did not flatter him. Leonard Carter had been a factory foreman at Holbrook Rubber for 31 years. He could silence a room with 1 cough. He had big hands, sharp creases in his pants, and a voice that made adults sit straighter even when they owed him nothing. In our family, he was the judge, the banker, and the weather. Marcus was his first son. Dwayne was his second. I was his daughter, which meant I was useful in all the ways that did not get applauded. When Mama got sick years before, I handled appointments. When Grandma needed rides, I drove. When Marcus's transmission failed, I paid $1,100 to the mechanic on Bell Street. When Dwayne's youngest needed braces, I sent $800 directly to the orthodontist and told the child it was from everybody. That was my mistake. I made generosity quiet. Quiet is easy to spend. After Grandma passed, Daddy said the estate was complicated. He said taxes were behind. He said the house needed to stay in family hands. He said if I could help for a little while, it would keep all of us steady. A little while, he said, standing by Grandma's sink with his hat in both hands. I remember that hat. brown felt, worn at the brim. I remember because he knew what to do with his hands when he wanted pity. "How much?" I asked. $1,500 a month, he said, just until probate clears. Probate for what? He looked toward the hallway. Marlene, don't start. That was one of his favorite tools. Don't start. It meant stop noticing. I had just moved into Grandma's house after she was gone. It was not dramatic. My apartment lease ended. Grandma's place needed care. Daddy said somebody should stay there so pipes didn't freeze and teenagers didn't use the porch after dark. So I moved in with 2 suitcases, my payroll laptop, and Grandma's blue funeral folder. Ruth Bellamy had handed me that folder at the repast in the church basement. Ruth was the county probate clerk, but to me she was still Miss Ruth from New Hope Baptist, the woman who kept peppermints in her purse and could make a bake sale ledger balance to the penny. She had been Grandma's church treasurer for years. She pressed the folder into my hands by the coffee urn. "Your grandma said this was for you," Ruth told me. "For me? For you." I started to open it. Ruth put 2 fingers on the cover. "Not here, baby." Her voice was soft, but it had a stop sign in it. So I tucked it under my arm. Then potato salad needed serving. Somebody needed ice. Daddy needed me to find the guest book. By the time I got home, I put the folder in the bottom drawer of Grandma's buffet and told myself I would open it when the house was quiet. The house got quiet. I still did not open it. Grief can make even paper feel heavy. For 6 years, $1,500 left my paycheck every month and went into Leonard Carter's account at Summit Lakes Credit Union. It showed as family holding support in my payroll split. Daddy wanted it named that way. "Looks cleaner," he said. I should have asked cleaner for whom. That was $18,000 a year, $36,000 after 2, $90,000 after 5. By the Sunday he handed me that rent bill, I had sent him $108,000 through payroll splits alone since moving into Grandma's house. That did not count the checks. It did not count the repairs. It did not count the cash I tucked into birthday cards for children whose parents called it family help after I handed it over. My father called it borrowing. He never said from whom. That Sunday dinner was supposed to be ordinary. I had baked chicken in Grandma's blue enamel pan. I had made collards, corn pudding, deviled eggs, and peach cobbler because Dwayne's wife, Tanya, always looked disappointed if dessert came from a store. Marcus brought rolls from Kroger and acted like he had catered a banquet. We ate in the kitchen because Grandma's dining room still had boxes from the church rummage sale. Daddy sat at the head like he had built the table himself. He had not. My grandfather had bought it used in 1978 from a woman on Orchard Street. My father tapped the rent bill twice before sliding it over. The paper made a soft hiss against the tablecloth. "Since we're handling family business," he said, "we need to get things proper." I kept my fork in my hand. "What family business?" Mr. Voss cleared his throat. He was a narrow man with neat white hair and a pen he liked to click. Click, click, click. "Mr. Carter has asked me to formalize the occupancy arrangement." "The what?" Daddy smiled at that. He liked a phrase that made nonsense sound dressed. "You've been staying here rent-free, Marlene." Marcus shifted. Tanya looked at the stove. Dwayne took a drink, though his glass was almost empty. I set my fork down. "Rent-free." Daddy nodded. "That's right." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because the mind does strange things when insult comes wearing a necktie. "I pay the gas," I said. "Electric, water, trash, insurance since last April, the porch repair, the new water heater." "That's upkeep," Daddy said. "It was $3,200. Mr. Voss wrote something down." Daddy's mouth tightened. "Don't nickel and dime your family." "Nickel and dime?" This from a man billing his daughter $900 in a house she had kept warm through 3 winters. I looked at my brothers. Marcus had the face of a man hoping silence would pass as neutrality. It would not. Dwayne's ears had gone red, but he did not speak. Tanya did, though. She does have a point, Leonard. Daddy turned his head slow. Tanya dropped her eyes. I'm just saying the water heater was expensive. Marcus muttered, Tanya. There it was, a small window opening, then getting shut from inside. My father pushed the bill closer. The rent starts this month. First payment due Friday. Friday is the 28th, I said. You get paid Friday. He knew that, of course. He knew the day my paycheck landed better than he knew my favorite hymn. I touched the blue folder in my purse, just the edge of it, smooth cardboard, a little worn at the corners. Daddy noticed. What's that? Grandma's folder. His eyes moved from my purse to my face. What folder? The blue one from the funeral. A small thing happened then. Mr. Voss stopped clicking his pen. Only for 1 second. But I heard it. Daddy recovered first. Old programs and church mess, probably. Probably. You always did hold on to junk. I nodded. Some paper matters. He stared at me over Grandma's good plates. People like you, he said again, slower this time, always think paper makes you important. People like you. That phrase did not float around the room. It landed. It sat on the table with the rent bill and the hot sauce and the butter dish shaped like a hen. My father had said hard things before, ungrateful, stubborn, too proud, too educated for your own good. But people like you had a smell to it, the old smell, the one that comes when a person needs your labor but resents your dignity. I looked at each person at that table. Marcus Carter, my older brother, who let me pay $1,100 for his transmission and never mentioned it again. Dwayne Carter, my younger brother, who said I was better with paperwork when he needed forms, then acted like paperwork was nothing when it protected me. Tanya Carter, who had almost spoken. Rebecca Carter, Marcus's wife, who folded her napkin into a tight square and kept her mouth shut. Mr. Voss, who knew enough law to know better and enough family politics to pretend he didn't. And Leonard Carter, my father, who believed a daughter's manners were the same thing as permission. I said, I'll need a copy for my records. Daddy snorted. Always with records. Yes, I said, always. Dinner ended badly, but quietly. That was the Carter way. Nobody slammed. Nobody shouted. They just gathered coats, hugged with stiff arms, and left the truth sitting where dessert should have been. After they were gone, I washed every plate by hand. The dishwasher worked fine. I still washed them by hand. Hot water, lemon soap, Grandma's dish towel over my shoulder. I did not eat the cobbler. At 10:46 that night, I took the rent bill from my purse and read every line. Tenant, Marlene Carter. Premises, 18 Juniper Hill Road. Owner, Carter Family Property Trust. I stopped there. I had never heard of a Carter Family Property Trust. Not once. I took a picture of the bill, front and back. Then I placed it on Grandma's kitchen table beside the blue funeral folder. I did not open the folder, not because I was afraid, because I wanted his demand in writing first. The next morning, I was at Buckeye Medical Supply by 7:12. The parking lot still had mist in the low spots. Henderson Tire had not raised its bay doors yet. Inside, the payroll office smelled like toner, floor wax, and the burnt coffee our shipping manager made too strong. My desk faced the interior window. I liked it that way. People could see me before they came asking why their check looked short. At 7:43, Carl from Route 6 knocked on the glass. You got a second, Miss Carter? Always for payroll. He handed me his stub. I think the overtime's off. I scanned it, 43 regular hours, 7 overtime, shift differential, 2 safety bonuses. There it was, 4 cents. The system had rounded his overtime rate wrong because his temporary shift premium had ended at midnight instead of the end of the pay period. 4 cents, I said. Carl blinked. I wasn't trying to bother you over 4 cents. You worked it. It's 4 cents. I don't argue with numbers. He smiled then, tired and grateful. Drivers know what a dollar means. They know what 4 cents means too, if it happens enough times to enough people. I corrected the entry, documented the adjustment, and sent payroll a note before 8 o'clock. Then I locked my office door. I opened my own employee file. There are things a person should not have to investigate about her own life, but should is not a system. Should does not print records. I pulled my direct deposit elections from 6 years back. Primary account, mine. Secondary account, Summit Lakes Credit Union, Leonard Carter. Amount, $1,500. Frequency, every pay date adjusted monthly. Memo, family holding support. I sat back. I remembered signing that form. Daddy had stood over my shoulder at my old kitchen counter in my apartment off Bell Avenue. This keeps it clean, he had said. There was that word again. Clean. I printed the first year, then the second, then all 6. The printer clicked and warmed and fed out page after page. White paper, black ink, no feelings, just proof. $18,000 a year. $108,000 in payroll splits. I made a spreadsheet because that is what I do when my chest gets tight. Dates in column A, amounts in column B, receiving account in column C, notes in column D. Then I added checks. $500 for property tax, March 2021. $675 for roof patch, November 2021. $3,200 for water heater, February 2023. $489 for furnace motor, January 2024. $2,100 for insurance premium, April 2025. By lunch, I had reached $117,864, and that was only what I could prove before eating my sandwich. At 12:08, my phone buzzed. Daddy. I let it ring. At 12:09, he called again. I answered on speaker because I wanted both hands free. Yes? You at work? It's Monday. Don't get smart. I typed phone call 12:09 p.m. in my notes. He breathed hard through his nose. You made dinner awkward. I served dinner. You know what I mean? No, I don't. He hated when I made him say the plain thing. You embarrassed me in front of Voss. I asked for records. You questioned me. I asked for records. Marlene, that house is not yours. I looked at the blue folder in my tote bag. I didn't say it was. You're acting like it. How does a tenant act? Silence. Then he said, watch yourself. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a father using old authority like a key he assumed still fit. I wrote that down too. Daddy, why does the rent start now? It's time. Why now? Because carrying you has gotten expensive. Carrying me. I looked at the payroll split on my screen. $1,500 every month. 6 years. Some lies are bold, some are lazy. This one was both. I have to get back to work, I said. You always run when family needs answers. No, I said. I go where the records are. I hung up. My hands were steady, but my lunch stayed wrapped until 2:30. At 3:16, an email came from Voss and Klein, attorneys at law. Subject, notice regarding occupancy. Mr. Voss had attached a PDF. Dear Ms. Carter, please be advised that your continued occupancy of 18 Juniper Hill Road, Maple Ridge, Ohio, is subject to approval by the authorized representatives of Carter Family Property Trust. As discussed, monthly rent in the amount of $900 is due beginning this month. Failure to remit payment may result in a 30-day notice to vacate. family property, authorized representatives. I read it twice. Then I printed it. The printer sounded louder that time. At 4:02, I drove to Summit Lakes Credit Union on Main Street. I had been banking there since I was 19. The same brass clock hung over the teller line. Same bowl of wrapped mints by the deposit slips. Maple Ridge changes slowly unless money is leaving. Then it moves fast. The teller smiled. "Hi, Marlene." "Hi, Janice. I need statements for every transfer from my payroll account to this account number." I slid the printout under the glass. She looked at it. "How far back?" 6 years. Her smile thinned with concern. "That may take a minute." I brought time. While Janice worked, I sat in the lobby with my purse on my lap and Grandma's folder inside it. A man in a seed company cap argued about a cashier's check. A young mother bounced a baby near the coin machine. Life kept doing what life does. It kept moving past the person whose ground had just shifted. Janice called me back 28 minutes later. "I can print your outgoing transfer records," she said carefully. "I can't print statements for the receiving account unless you're named on it." "I understand." She passed me a stack of pages. "Do you need an envelope?" "Yes, please." She gave me 2. That was kind. Outside, I sat in my car and matched the first 12 transfers against Daddy's account number. Everyone landed. I did not cry. I got practical. At 5:11, I parked behind Grandma's house and went in through the kitchen door. The porch light flickered once, then steadied. I put my tote on the chair Daddy had used the night before. Then I cleaned. Not because the house was dirty, because I needed to move through it and remember what was real. I wiped the stove. I swept under the table. I folded the throw blanket over the back of Grandma's couch. I dusted the framed church photo in the hallway, the one from New Hope's 70th anniversary. Grandma stood in the second row, white suit, pearl pin, chin lifted. Ruth Bellamy stood beside her with a ledger tucked under one arm. Behind that frame, something white showed at the edge. I stopped. The picture had hung crooked for months. I had straightened it every Saturday and never looked behind it. I lifted it from the wall. A small brass key was taped to the back with yellowed masking tape. My name was written on the tape. Marlene, Grandma's handwriting. My knees did not buckle. That sounds dramatic, and that is not what happened. I stood very still in the hallway with a dust cloth in my hand and a key taped to a church picture. Then I laughed once. Soft. "Grandma," I said. The key was for the sewing table. I knew that before I crossed the room. That locked drawer had been part of the house as long as I had been alive. As children, Marcus and Dwayne used to tug on it. Grandma would say, "Private means private, boys." They always stopped, not because they respected privacy, because Grandma had a look that could close a door from 10 feet away. I knelt by the sewing table. The brass key turned hard at first. Then the lock gave. Inside were 3 things. A county recorder receipt dated May 14th, 2019, a small envelope from Ruth Bellamy, and a note from Grandma, folded in half. I did not open the blue folder yet, but I opened the note in the drawer. It said, "Baby, when they ask you to pay for shelter, go see Ruth. Take the blue folder. Take this receipt. Do not let Leonard explain paper he did not sign." I sat back on my heels. Outside, a car passed slow on Juniper Hill Road. The tires made a soft sound on the pavement. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice. I read the note again. "Do not let Leonard explain paper he did not sign." That was my grandmother. Warm hands, sharp eyes, church hat on Sunday, hammer in the junk drawer. I put the note, receipt, and envelope into my purse. Then I locked the sewing drawer again. Not because I wanted to hide it from myself, because some doors deserve to open only when the right person is watching. At 6:38, my phone buzzed with a text from Dwayne. "Daddy says you're making this bigger than it is." I typed, "It is exactly as big as the paper says." Then I deleted it. I wrote nothing back. At 7:04, Marcus texted, "Can you just pay for now so we can all cool off?" There it was, the family peace invoice, $900 plus silence. I set the phone face down. At 7:22, I made tea in Grandma's kettle. Mint, because that was what she drank when she wanted to think without pacing. I placed the blue funeral folder on the table. My fingers rested on the cover. 3 years. I had carried it from church basement to car, from apartment to Grandma's buffet, from buffet to purse, from Sunday dinner to payroll office to bank to hallway. I had treated it like a memory. It was starting to feel like a witness. I still did not open it. Not that night. First, I called Ruth Bellamy. She answered on the third ring. "Marlene Carter," she said. I wondered how long it would take. My throat tightened, but my voice stayed even. "Miss Ruth, I found a key behind Grandma's church picture." Ruth was quiet. Then she said, "You found the receipt too?" "Yes, ma'am." "And the blue folder?" "It's on my kitchen table." "Good. Should I open it?" "No," Ruth said. "Bring it to me sealed." "To the courthouse?" "To probate. Tomorrow morning. Use the side entrance on Bell, unless you want 3 people asking why you're there before coffee." That was Maple Ridge. Everybody knew who parked crooked, who bought lilies for a grave, and who came to probate carrying family trouble. "Miss Ruth," I said, "Daddy says this house is family property." Ruth made a sound. Not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. "Leonard says many things. He had Mr. Voss send me a notice. Bring that too. He billed me rent. How much? 900. Ruth went silent again. This time, the silence had teeth. Then she said, "Bring every paper you have, baby." I looked around Grandma's kitchen. The rent bill sat beside my tea. The payroll records sat in 2 envelopes. The blue folder waited between them. "Miss Ruth?" "Yes?" "What is in this folder?" She did not answer right away. When she did, her voice had lost all softness. "Enough." At 8:15 the next morning, I parked on Bell Street beside the courthouse annex with Grandma's blue folder flat on my lap. I had dressed like Grandma taught me for a hard room. Navy skirt, white blouse, low shoes, silver threaded braids pinned neat at the back of my head, church gloves in my purse, not on my hands. A black woman in Maple Ridge learns early that some people read cotton gloves as manners and plain hands as work. I brought both. The courthouse side entrance still had the old metal detector that squealed if your purse had too many keys. "Mr." Hollis from security looked over my ID, then looked at my face. "Marlene Carter?" "Yes, sir." "You here for probate?" "Yes." He glanced at the folder. "Miss Ruth's expecting you." That told me enough. Ruth had already moved something. I signed in at the clipboard. Time, name, reason for visit. I wrote document review. My hand did not shake. The pen was chained to the desk with a silver bead chain, and the chain was too short, so everybody had to bend a little to write. Even that felt like Maple Ridge, everybody bending around the wrong thing. Ruth Bellamy stood inside the probate office doorway in a gray cardigan and black reading glasses. She was 71, tall, deep brown, with a face that could pass a budget vote and silence a choir rehearsal without raising her voice. "Come on, baby," she said. She did not hug me in the hallway. That was kind, too. A public hug says more than paper sometimes, and Ruth knew when not to give people extra things to read. Her office had 2 file cabinets, 1 window, and a framed photograph of New Hope's women's ministry from 1998. Grandma sat in the front row with her ankles crossed, and her white hat tilted just enough to mean she knew exactly who had been late. Ruth closed the door. "Put everything on the table." I placed the rent bill down first, then Voss's email, then my payroll split records. then the bank transfer printouts. Last, I set down the blue folder. Ruth looked at it for a long moment. She told me you wouldn't open it too soon. She knew me. She knew Leonard, too. That name sat between us. I asked, "Is this official?" Ruth took the county receipt from the envelope I had found in the sewing drawer. She held it under her lamp. May 14th, 2019. Recorder's office. Instrument number here. Fee paid here. Etta Mae Carter signed here. I leaned forward. For what? Ruth did not answer yet. She opened a drawer and took out a white cotton sleeve. Then she looked at me over her glasses. Before I open this folder, I need you to hear me. I'm listening. You do not owe your father rent today. I breathed once through my nose. She tapped the rent bill. This paper is a demand. It is not proof. That trust name? Carter Family Property Trust? Yes. Ruth's mouth tightened. I checked the county index before you got here. There is no recorded deed from Etta Mae Carter into that trust. I stared at the page. None? None. Could it be private? A trust can be private. A house transfer cannot hide from the recorder if folks want it to count against the world. That was the first door opening. Ruth slid the Voss email closer. This notice says authorized representatives. It does not name them. Daddy told me he was carrying me. Ruth looked up. He said that? Yesterday. And he was taking $1,500 a month? For 6 years. Ruth reached for a yellow legal pad. Say that again. I did. She wrote it down in careful block letters. $1,500 monthly. 6 years. Payroll split. Leonard Carter account. Then I added the rest because I had not come to be vague. $500 for taxes in March 2021. $675 for the roof patch. $3,200 for the water heater. $489 for the furnace motor. $2,100 for insurance. $800 for the porch railing. $315 for the county assessment. $742 for back utilities. $1,900 for the retaining wall. $600 for Marcus's transmission deposit, though he called it temporary. Ruth kept writing. When I finished, she said, "You've got more." Yes, ma'am. How much can you prove today? $117,864. And what do you estimate? I swallowed. $240,000, if every cash withdrawal and family check is what I think it is. Ruth set the pen down. Baby. I know. No, she said. You know numbers. You're about to know motive. She opened the blue folder. I had thought there would be a smell, dust, old paper, funeral flowers, something, but it smelled like nothing at all, just cardboard and the faint, clean air of a room where records outlived everybody's explanations. Inside were 5 things: a certified copy request form, a 1-page letter in Grandma's handwriting, a photocopy of Grandma's driver's license, a recorded transfer on death designation affidavit, and a stapled packet from Lake County Mutual Bank. Ruth did not touch the affidavit first. She touched the bank packet. Where did this come from? I asked. Your grandmother brought it to me after Leonard left it on her buffet. Daddy? She said he claimed it was for a family investment. What investment? Ruth turned the packet toward me. Carter Lakeside Bait and Tackle, LLC. I looked at those words, and the room got very quiet inside me. Daddy had talked about that bait shop for years. A little place by Sandpiper Marina, worms, minnows, fishing licenses, coffee in the morning. He said it failed because the county changed the road sign and people stopped seeing the turn. I had given him money after it closed. $1,000 in June, then $1,200 in August, then $900 in December, because he said suppliers were threatening court. I saw the loan number at the top. Ruth pointed to a line halfway down the page. Expected collateral to include residential property located at 18 Juniper Hill Road, Maple Ridge, Ohio, upon completion of family transfer. I read it 3 times. Family transfer, I said. Ruth nodded. That phrase bothered your grandmother. When was this? 2018. A year before the county receipt. Before Grandma recorded whatever she recorded. Before Daddy stood in my apartment and told me the payroll split kept things clean. Ruth turned 1 page. There was Daddy's signature. Leonard Carter, big looping L factory foreman handwriting. Confident even when it lied. Below his signature was a typed statement. Borrower represents anticipated ownership interest in subject property through family estate arrangement. I sat back. He promised them Grandma's house. He promised an interest, Ruth said. That's slipperier. But he didn't have one. No. Did Grandma know? She knew after the bank mailed a copy here by mistake. I touched the edge of the packet. That's why she made the deed. Ruth's eyes softened, but her voice stayed firm. She made her decision because she had watched long enough. I looked at the affidavit, but Ruth still did not slide it to me. Miss Ruth. I know. Is my name on it? Yes. The room did not move. I did not cry. I did not cheer. I did not even smile. I sat in a county chair with a metal frame and a vinyl seat, and I felt 6 years of my paychecks line up behind me like workers waiting to clock out. How much of the house? I asked. Ruth answered plainly. All of it. There are sentences that make noise after they end. That one did. I looked toward the window. Bell Street had morning traffic now. A delivery van. 2 county workers. A woman in red scrubs walking fast with coffee in one hand. Life moving past the building where my grandmother had hidden shelter inside paper. Ruth picked up the letter. This one is for you. Can I read it? You can, but I think she meant for it to be heard. My throat tightened. Then read it. Ruth unfolded the page with both hands. Baby, she read, if you are hearing this, Leonard has asked you to pay for what I already left you. I closed my eyes. Ruth kept going. This house is not payment. It is shelter. You worked too hard and gave too much while they called it family. Family should not mean one daughter carries every grown man's pride. Ruth paused there. I opened my eyes. She read on. I did not tell you sooner because I wanted you to live here as home, not as a fight. But if they turn my table into a billing desk, take this paper to Ruth. She knows where the truth is recorded. My hands were folded in my lap, tight but folded. Ruth's voice lowered. Do not let Leonard explain paper he did not sign. Do not let Marcus be silent for profit. Do not let Dwayne act confused when he cashed comfort. I loved my sons. I did. But I saw them. I saw you, too. Ruth stopped. I stared at Grandma's name at the bottom. Etta Mae Carter, sharp E, strong C. Read the last line, I said. Ruth did. Keep the porch light working. A woman coming home should not have to feel her way in. That one almost got me. Almost. I took the letter, folded it once, and put it back on the table. What happens now? Ruth tapped the affidavit. We get a certified copy from the recorder. Then we request a probate conference, because Voss has already put an eviction threat in writing. Can he evict me before Friday? No. Can Daddy change the locks? He can try. Then he can explain that to a judge. My phone buzzed inside my purse. Daddy. Ruth looked at the purse. Answer it. Here? Here. I answered and put him on speaker. Yes? Where are you? At the courthouse. Silence. Then his voice changed. It got low. What courthouse? The county courthouse. What for? Records. Ruth took up her pen again. Daddy said, You need to stop running around town with family business. I'm not running. You went to Ruth, didn't you? Ruth's face did not change. I said, yes. He laughed once, too quick. That old woman loves mess. Ruth lifted one eyebrow. I said, she loves records. You listen to me. That folder is not yours. It has my name on it. It came from my mother's funeral. Yes. You had no right to keep it. That was new, not the anger, the fear under it. I wrote his words on Ruth's pad because it was closest to me. You want the folder? I asked. I want you to bring it to me. Why? Because I said so. Ruth shook her head once. I said, no. Daddy breathed hard. You getting too big in yourself. I'm 52. You're still my daughter. Yes. And daughters don't drag fathers through court. Fathers don't bill daughters for their own house. He went quiet. Ruth stopped writing. I had not meant to say that much. It came out calm. Maybe that made it worse. What did Ruth tell you? He asked. Enough. His voice sharpened. You don't know what you're holding. I know what I'm looking at. No, you don't. Your grandma was confused near the end. Ruth's pen hit the table. Not hard, just enough. I said, be careful. Don't you tell me that. Be careful with Grandma. She wasn't thinking right. Ruth leaned toward the phone. Leonard Carter, she said. This is Ruth Bellamy. You are on speaker in the probate office. The line went dead. Ruth sat back. There he is, she said. I looked at the phone. That was fast. Fear moves faster than pride. 10 minutes later, Ruth walked me to the recorder's counter herself. The woman behind the glass was younger, with a neat bob and a county badge that said Alicia. She gave me the professional smile people give when they know the person beside you has already told them to behave. Ruth said, certified copy of instrument number 2019-05-14-7782. Alicia typed. I waited. The printer behind her started. 3 pages came out. Alicia stamped them one by one. Blue ink, raised seal, date, time. That'll be $6, she said. I paid with exact cash from the envelope where I kept grocery money. $6. After $117,864 I could prove, the paper that stood up for me cost $6. Alicia slid the certified copy under the glass. For 1 second, her eyes went to my face, then to Ruth, then back to me. You'll want to keep that flat, she said. I will. Back in Ruth's office, she placed the certified copy in a clear sleeve. She did not read the full sentence aloud. She only pointed to the recording stamp. May 14th, 2019. 2 years before Grandma passed. Yes. Before Daddy's rent bill. Yes. Before his trust. If that trust exists anywhere but Voss's letter. I looked at the rent bill again. Tenant, Marlene Cartar. They had even spelled my name wrong. Cartar, not Carter. A person can take your money for 6 years and still not check the spelling before billing you. Ruth saw where I was looking. That mistake matters less than the lie, she said. I know. But it tells you how they see you. I nodded. The second look, the kitchen chair, the assumption that my hands were useful and my name was optional. People like you. I heard Daddy say it again. People like you should be grateful. I put one finger on the certified copy. Miss Ruth, what do I do about Friday? You do not pay Leonard. What if he says I refused? You did refuse. Refusing a false bill is not wrongdoing. What if Voss sends another notice? He will. You sound sure. I know men who use letterhead as a raised voice. She reached for the phone on her desk. I'm calling Judge Halpern's clerk. We'll ask for a conference. Not a hearing, not yet. A conference puts everyone in one room and on notice. Will Daddy be there? If Voss has sense, yes. And my brothers? If they signed anything, they should come. My stomach tightened. Signed what? Ruth opened the bank packet again and turned to the back. There were 2 witness lines on a loan update form. Marcus Carter, Dwayne Carter. Not as borrowers. Not exactly. The typed box said family representatives confirming pending property contribution. I stared at their signatures. Marcus's M leaned backward. Dwayne printed his name like he was filling out a school permission slip. They knew about the bait shop? They knew enough to sign. Marcus told me it was none of my concern. People say that when your money is their plan. And Dwayne? Ruth's mouth tightened again. Dwayne came here once. When? After your grandmother recorded the affidavit. I looked up. What did he want? He asked whether a transfer on death paper could be changed. My chest went cold, but my voice stayed level. He knew? He knew there was a paper. I did not tell him what it said. Did he tell Daddy? I expect he did. There it was. A second door opening into a room I did not want, but needed. Dwayne had not been confused at dinner. He had been waiting to see how much I knew. Marcus had not been neutral. He had signed a paper that made my home sound like a contribution. Tanya had almost spoken because she had probably heard enough at her own kitchen table to know the rent bill was rotten. Rebecca had folded that napkin because silence gives the hands something clean to do. Ruth slid a blank intake form toward me. Write what you know. Now? Now. I filled in my name, address, phone, relationship to decedent. Then the form asked for nature of dispute. I wrote, false rent demand and threatened eviction involving property transferred by recorded designation. The words looked too small for the life inside them. Ruth read it. Good. Then she added a sticky note. Possible elder property pressure. Possible fraudulent collateral representation. Payroll diversion records available. I looked at that last phrase. Payroll diversion. That is the polite phrase today. What's the impolite one? Ruth met my eyes. Taking. I liked her for not dressing it up. At 10:02, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Marcus. I let Ruth see the name. She said, answer. I did. Marcus. What did you do? His voice was tight, not sleepy now, not neutral. I went to probate. Why would you do that? Because Daddy billed me rent. You could have talked to us. I did, at dinner. You made accusations. I asked who owned the house. You knew that would upset him. He sent Voss. Marcus exhaled hard. Listen, don't sign anything with Ruth. I looked at Ruth. She looked back, still as stone. Why? Because once court gets involved, it gets ugly. It was ugly at Grandma's table. That's not what I mean. I know what you mean. He lowered his voice. Daddy's got a refinance pending. There it was. I wrote refinance on the pad. For what? Just family restructuring. Marcus. Marlene, don't do payroll voice with me. Payroll voice. That meant he heard the part of me he could not charm. I said, what refinance? He muttered something away from the phone. A door closed on his end. Then he said, the bait shop debt got rolled into some other things. What other things? Taxes, a small lien, some medical bills. Whose medical bills? That's not the point. It is if my house is on the paper. He did not answer. My house. I had said it again. This time I did not apologize to the air. Marcus said, you don't even need that place. I almost laughed. Where do I live, Marcus? You know what I mean. No, say it. You have a good job. I have a job. You're single. And housed. You don't have kids. There it is. He sighed like I had tired him. I'm saying the family has needs. And I'm not family. That's not fair. No, it's exact. Ruth wrote exact on the pad, then underlined it once. I nearly smiled. Marcus said, "Just hold off until Friday. Daddy can explain." Friday is when he wants $900. It's temporary. So was the transmission money. He went quiet. I said, "Do you remember that?" "That was different." "How?" "I paid you back in other ways." "What ways?" Silence. I did not fill it for him. He said, "You're really going to embarrass us." "Marcus, I process payroll for 218 employees. I have seen garnishments, tax levies, child support orders, bankruptcies, and bad math. Embarrassment is not a payment plan." Ruth pressed her lips together. Marcus said, "You sound just like Grandma." "Thank you." He hung up. Ruth leaned back in her chair. That boy always did think a compliment was an insult if it came out wrong. I put my phone down. He said, "Refinance." "Yes." "And Friday matters." "Yes." "Why?" Ruth opened the bank packet again and scanned the top page. Lake County Mutual requested updated proof of ownership by end of month. Friday. Yes. So the rent bill wasn't just rent. No. It was a pressure tool. And maybe a paper trail. I looked at the misspelled bill. To make me look like a tenant. Ruth nodded. If you paid, they could show acceptance. Acceptance of what? Occupancy under their claim. I sat very still. $900 for silence. $900 for a lie with my bank stamp on it. $900 to shrink me from owner to tenant before a lender asked questions. I took the rent bill and slid it into a separate sleeve. I'm not paying it. No. But I want proof I didn't ignore it. Ruth smiled then, small and sharp. Now you're thinking like Etta May. She helped me draft a response, short, plain. No anger to give Voss something to circle. I dispute the demand for rent and any claim that Carter Family Property Trust owns 18 Juniper Hill Road. Please provide the recorded deed, trust authority, and documentation supporting your demand. All further communications should be in writing. Ruth read it twice. Add one line. What line? I reserve all rights. I typed it. Then I sent it from my phone to Voss and copied myself. At 10:41, Voss replied, Ms. Carter, your position is noted. We will address this in due course. Ruth read it and snorted. Due course means he doesn't have the paper. Or he needs time to make some. Paper has dates, Ruth said. That's why they hate it. At 11:06, Judge Halpern's clerk called Ruth back. Ruth put her on speaker. Probate conference tomorrow at 9, the clerk said. Small room B. Ruth looked at me. I nodded. The clerk continued. Parties may attend with counsel. Bring originals and copies. Ruth said, We have certified records. Good, the clerk said. Judge wants this clean. Clean. I almost laughed. Everybody wanted clean after my money had spent 6 years doing dirty work in pressed pants. When the call ended, Ruth walked to her filing cabinet and pulled out an old brown folder. I wasn't going to show you this unless we needed it. What is it? Notes your grandmother asked me to keep. Notes. Dates. Calls. Things Leonard said when he thought nobody would make a ledger. She opened it. There were church offering envelopes with writing on the back, small calendar pages, a photocopy of a tax notice, Grandma's handwriting everywhere. Leonard asked again about deed, April 3rd. Leonard says Marlene can pay utilities because she has no children, June 17th. Marcus says house should stay with the men, August 9th. Dwayne asked if TOD can be undone, October 4th. I touched none of it. Ruth said, Your grandmother did not gossip. She documented. I whispered. She knew. Yes. She knew before I did. She knew because she had been a black woman in rooms with men who smiled while measuring what they could take. She knew that look. Ruth's voice stayed calm, but that sentence landed hard. I thought of Daddy at the table. People like you. Not just daughter. Not just unmarried. Not just useful. A black woman he expected to serve the family structure and thank him for the chair. I said, he learned that from somewhere. Yes, and he kept it because it paid. Ruth closed the brown folder. We will not use all of this tomorrow unless needed. Why not? Because the deed is enough for ownership. The rest goes to motive. And if Voss pushes, then motive walks in. I stood then because my legs needed work. Ruth stood too. Where are you going? Work? She frowned. Today? I still have payroll adjustments. Marlene. I'm not giving them my whole day too. That was the first thing that felt like mine. Before I left, Ruth handed me a plain white envelope. Inside was a copy of Grandma's letter. The original stays flat, she said. You carry this. I put it in my purse beside my church gloves. At the courthouse door, Mr. Hollis nodded at me. You get what you came for? I looked at Bell Street, then at the folder under my arm. Some of it. He opened the door. Outside, the air had warmed. Maple Ridge smelled like pavement, lake damp, and coffee from the bakery across the street. I walked to my car with my head up. Not proud, not rescued, just informed. That is a different posture. At Buckeye Medical Supply, I was back at my desk by 11:52. Carl from Route 6 saw me through the glass and raised his corrected stub like a little flag. Got my 4 cents, he said. You earned it. He grinned. You don't play. No, I said. I don't. By 1:30, I had processed 3 benefit changes, 1 address correction, and a wage verification for a warehouse lead buying his first house in Cuyahoga Falls. I checked every number twice. My own house sat in a clear sleeve inside my tote bag, but I did not touch it. At 2:14, an email came from Lake County Mutual Bank. Subject, verification request. My skin went tight before I opened it. Dear Ms. Carter, we have received your contact information in connection with a pending collateral review involving 18 Juniper Hill Road. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience. I read it once. Then I printed it. Daddy had put my name somewhere. Not as owner, not as daughter, as contact information. I called the number from my office phone. A woman answered. Lake County Mutual, this is Denise. This is Marlene Carter. I received a verification request. 1 moment, please. Hold music played. Soft piano. Too soft for what was happening. Then a man came on. Ms. Carter, this is Aaron Pike in Loan Review. Yes. We're updating a file related to Leonard Carter. Are you authorized to discuss 18 Juniper Hill Road? I'm the recorded transfer on death beneficiary and current owner. He paused. Current owner? Yes. Our file reflects pending family trust transfer. Your file is wrong. Another pause. Do you have documentation? Yes. Can you send it? I can send a certified copy through counsel or provide it at probate tomorrow. Probate? Yes. His voice changed. Professional concern. Not warmth. Risk. Ms. Carter, has Mr. Carter represented that he controls the property? You should ask him that in writing. I understand. No, I said, calm as payroll. You should ask him with dates. He went quiet. Then he said, we will place a temporary hold on collateral review pending documentation. Please send that in writing. Of course. And spell my name correctly, Marlene Carter. Yes, ma'am. 5 minutes later, the email came. Temporary hold, collateral review, pending ownership documentation. I printed it and added it to the stack. At 3:07, Tanya called. That surprised me. I let it ring twice, then answered. Hi, Tanya. Marlene. Her voice sounded thin. You at work? Yes. I won't keep you. I waited. She took a breath. Marcus is mad. I expect so. He says you're trying to ruin Daddy. No. No? I'm trying to stop being used. Tanya was quiet. Then she said, There's a file at the house. Your house? Yes. What file? Marcus brought it home after Daddy's bank meeting. I wasn't supposed to see it. What's in it? I don't know all of it. Loan papers, a tax notice, something with your payroll deposits. My hand closed around the receiver. My payroll deposits? It had your name. Did Marcus sign? I think so. Did you? No. That came fast, then softer. I should have said something Sunday. Yes. I got scared. I know. That's not an excuse. No. She breathed into the phone. I can bring it tonight. Don't take anything you can't safely take. He won't hurt me. I didn't say that. No, I mean he'll yell. Tanya. I know. Her voice broke a little, but she pulled it back. I'll copy it at the library. 6 o'clock. Why are you helping me? Because I heard Marcus say, Marlene always pays when Daddy corners her. I closed my eyes. There it was again. Not surprise. System. He said that? Yes. And you stayed? I did. She did not hide behind tears. I respected that much. Library at 6, I said. Back table. Come alone. I will. After we hung up, I sat at my desk for a full minute. Then I opened my spreadsheet and added a new tab, potential bank file. I did not know the amount yet. I did not know the lie yet, but I knew its shape. At 5 o'clock, I shut down my computer, locked my office, and drove toward the Maple Ridge Public Library. I passed Henderson Tire, the florist, the old pharmacy with the soda counter nobody used anymore. Main Street was doing its evening business. People buying bread, people waving at cars, people pretending family trouble stayed indoors if curtains were closed. Tanya was already at the back table. She had a manila folder under both hands. Her face looked tired. No makeup, hair pulled back, wedding ring turned inward. I sat across from her. Did he see you? No. Where's Rebecca? I don't know. That was answer enough. Tanya slid the folder over. I copied what had your name. I opened it. The first page was a household contribution summary. My name was at the top. Marlene Carter Monthly Family Support, $1,500. Then beneath it, in Daddy's handwriting, another line. Reliable until retirement. I stared at those 3 words. Reliable until retirement. Not daughter, not Marlene. A stream, a number. A pipe they expected to keep open until I was too old to argue. Tanya whispered, I'm sorry. I turned the page. There was a bank worksheet, projected refinance support sources. Leonard pension, $2,100 monthly. Marcus contribution, $800 monthly. Dwayne contribution, $500 monthly. Marlene contribution, $1,500 monthly. Rental income from Juniper Hill. Occupant, $900 monthly. I tapped that last line. There it is. Tanya nodded. They were counting your paycheck and your rent. Twice. Yes. I turned another page. County tax lien, $13,640. Bait shop balance, $48,200. Second mortgage arrears, $22,900. Credit line, $9,410. I read each number silently first, then aloud. Tanya flinched at everyone. Did Marcus know all this? Yes. Dwayne? Yes. You? Not all. Tanya. I knew there was debt. I didn't know they used your payroll. But you knew about rent. Her eyes filled, but she did not let tears fall. Yes. I closed the folder. Thank you for bringing it. Is it enough? It's more. She nodded, then looked down at her hands. Marcus says you think you're better than us. No. He says you act white with paperwork. I looked at her then. The library lights hummed above us. Two teenagers whispered near the computers. A child dragged a picture book across the carpet. There was the line. Not from Daddy's mouth this time, but from the same poisoned well. I said, paperwork is not white. I know. Accuracy is not white. I know. Keeping what belongs to me is not betrayal. Tanya wiped under one eye. I know that too. Then say it at the table. She looked up. What table? Tomorrow. Probate. Her mouth opened. I can't. You can. Marcus will never forgive me. That is a marital question. She looked down again. I softened my voice, but not the words. Tanya, you do not have to defend me, but if you sit there while they lie from a paper you copied, that is a choice. She nodded slowly. Small room, B? 9 o'clock. I'll try. No, I said. Choose. She held my eyes. I'll be there. I put the copied file in my tote beside Grandma's letter. When I stood, Tanya touched the folder once. Marlene? Yes? Rebecca knew before I did. I stopped. What? She was at the bank meeting. Why? Dwayne couldn't go. She signed as witness. Rebecca, quiet napkin, tight square, clean hands. I nodded once. Thank you. Outside the library, my phone had 7 missed calls. Daddy, Marcus, Dwayne, Daddy again. Then a text from Voss. Please refrain from contacting third parties regarding family financial matters. I read it twice. Then I sent one reply. Please direct all further communication in writing and identify your client. He did not answer. That night, I went back to Grandma's house on Juniper Hill Road. The porch light came on when I touched the switch. I stood there for a moment and looked at the small circle of light on the steps. Keep the porch light working. Yes, ma'am, I said. Inside, I made no tea. I did not clean. I did not give my nerves a chore. I set the rent bill, Voss email, payroll records, bank transfers, certified copy, Grandma's letter, bait shop packet, and Tanya's copies in separate stacks on the kitchen table. Then I took out one blank sheet of paper and wrote 3 names: Marcus, Dwayne, Rebecca. Beside each, I wrote what I knew. Marcus signed family representative, asked me to pay. New refinance. Dwayne asked Ruth about TOD, stayed silent, likely told Daddy. Rebecca witnessed bank meeting, stayed silent, folded napkin. Then I wrote Tanya, brought copies, admitted fear, agreed to attend. That did not absolve her. It located her. A moral ledger is still a ledger. At 8:32, Dwayne came to the back door. He did not knock hard, just 2 taps. I looked through the curtain before I opened it. He stood on the porch in his work jacket, cap in both hands, face drawn. I opened the door but left the screen latched. What do you need? He looked at the latch. You scared of me now? No. I'm done confusing access with trust. He winced. Can I talk? You can talk there. He glanced behind him at the yard. Daddy's losing it. Over what? You know what? I know several things now. He rubbed his face. I didn't know they were taking that much. But you knew about Grandma's paper. His hand dropped. Ruth told you. Yes. I asked one question. You asked if it could be undone. I was worried. For whom? He looked away. Daddy said Grandma got manipulated. By me? He said Ruth put ideas in her head. Grandma had her own head. I know. Do you? He swallowed. I didn't sign to hurt you. What did you sign to do? Help Daddy. With my house? We thought it was family property. No, Dwayne. You hoped it was. That hit him. He looked through the screen at Grandma's kitchen, at the table, at the stacks. She really left it to you? I did not answer. He nodded like I had. Daddy won't accept that. He doesn't have to accept it. He has to stop lying around it. Dwayne looked tired then, younger than his age and older than his choices. He's going to bring everybody tomorrow. Good. You sure? Yes. It'll get ugly. It already did. Tomorrow it gets witnessed. He held his cap tighter. I'm sorry. There it was. One apology, standing on the porch, not big enough for the bill. For what? I asked. He looked pained. Marlene. For what, Dwayne? For staying quiet. What else? For asking Ruth. What else? His eyes dropped. For letting Daddy talk about you like you were just money. That was the closest he had come to truth. I nodded. Be at probate at 9. Do I need a lawyer? That's your question to answer. Will you speak against me? I'll speak from paper. He almost smiled, but it failed. You always do. Yes. I closed the door gently, not slammed, not softened, closed. At 10:10, I placed Grandma's letter beside my bed. I slept badly, but I slept. That mattered. Morning came gray over Juniper Hill Road. I dressed in the same navy skirt because it was clean, and because I wanted no one distracted by costume. I pinned my braids again. I put Grandma's copied letter in my purse. The church gloves went beside it. Before I left, I stood at the kitchen table and checked every stack. Rent demand, Voss notice, payroll splits, transfer records, bank hold email, Tanya copies, bait shop packet, certified county record, Grandma's letter. I put them in order inside a black accordion file. The blue folder stayed separate. It had started this, and I wanted it visible. At 8:47, I walked into the courthouse through the Bell Street side entrance. Mr. Hollis looked at the blue folder and then at me. Small room B, he said. Thank you. The hallway outside probate already had people in it. Daddy stood near the water fountain in his brown suit, the one he wore to funerals and bank meetings. Marcus stood beside him, jaw tight. Rebecca was there too, purse held in front of her with both hands. Dwayne stood a few feet away from them, not with me, not fully with them. Tanya came in behind me at 8:55 and stopped when Marcus saw her. His face changed. Tanya, he said. She walked past him and stood by the wall near me. Not beside me, near me. For now, near was a start. Mr. Voss arrived at 8:58 with a leather folder and the same clicking pen. He looked at my blue folder. Then he looked at Ruth, who had just stepped into the hall with her glasses low on her nose. Good morning, Ruth said. Voss smiled thin. Ruth. Mr. Voss. Daddy looked at me. You happy now? I met his eyes. No. That was true. Ruth opened the door to small room B. Come in, she said. Bring your paper. Small room B had one long table, 12 chairs, and no place to hide. The blinds were half open, so Bell Street came through in strips. I could see the bakery sign across the way and one corner of Daddy's Buick parked crooked near the curb. Ruth took the chair at the head of the table, not because she owned the room, because the room knew her. Ms. Carter, she said, looking at me. You sit there. She pointed to the chair on her right. Voss noticed that. Daddy noticed too. Why she get that seat? Marcus asked. Ruth looked at him over her glasses. Because she requested the conference. She requested trouble, Daddy said. Ruth picked up her pen. Mr. Carter, this is a county room. Daddy's mouth closed, but not all the way. I sat where Ruth told me. I placed the blue folder in front of me. Then I put my black accordion file beside it. I did not open either one. Voss sat across from me. Daddy sat beside him. Marcus sat next to Daddy, thick arms folded. Rebecca took the chair near the door. Dwayne sat at the far end, like distance could make him clean. Tanya stayed standing until Ruth looked at her. "Mrs. Carter, you may sit." Marcus turned. "She's with me." Tanya's voice came small. "I can sit by myself." That one sentence did more than she knew. Ruth wrote something down. Voss clicked his pen. "For the record, this is an informal probate conference regarding family property located at 18 Juniper Hill Road." Ruth lifted one finger. "No." Voss blinked. "Excuse me?" "For the record, this is a probate conference regarding a dispute over 18 Juniper Hill Road. Ownership is not conceded in your opening sentence." His jaw tightened. "Fine. Say it correctly." He gave a thin breath. "A dispute over 18 Juniper Hill Road." "Thank you." Daddy shifted in his chair. "This is silly." Ruth looked at him. "Then it should be quick." That almost made me smile. Almost. Voss opened his leather folder. "My client, Leonard Carter, appears today as family representative for the Carter heirs." Ruth wrote again. "Under what authority?" "Family agreement." "Written?" Voss paused. Ruth waited. Daddy said, "I'm her father." "That wasn't the question," Ruth said. The room went still in that first small way. Not the big stillness, the warning one. Voss slid a page forward. "We have a notice of monthly occupancy charges. Ms. Carter has been residing at the property without payment." I looked at the page, the same $900, same neat typing, same insult wearing a date. Ruth did not pick it up. "Who authorized this charge?" "My client." "Based on what ownership interest?" Voss glanced at Daddy. Daddy leaned forward. "It's my mother's house." "Was," Ruth said. Daddy's eyes sharpened. "Don't play words with me." "I work in words," Ruth said. "And dates." Marcus muttered, "Here we go." Ruth turned her pen toward him. "Mr. Carter, if you plan to speak, state your full name." Marcus sat back. I kept my hands folded on the table. My deep brown skin looked darker against that pale wood. I could feel every old room behind this room, every kitchen where I had been handed the plate last, every bank chair where my work badge got a second look. I had learned young that calm made people impatient. They wanted heat from me. It gave them something to blame. I gave them paper instead. Voss tapped the rent notice. "Miss Carter has benefited from the property." I said, "I paid the taxes in 2023. Daddy turned. "You paid one bill." I opened the accordion file and pulled one receipt, $3,812.46. Ruth looked at the receipt. "County treasurer stamp?" "Yes." She took it and placed it in front of her. Voss said, "That does not establish ownership." "No," I said. "It establishes who was keeping the lights from being cut off while he called it family property." Marcus said, "Don't start." I looked at him. I didn't. Ruth wrote again. Voss slid another page out. "We also have an occupancy understanding." My stomach did not drop. It tightened. There is a difference. "What understanding?" I asked. Voss smiled like he had been waiting. "A household arrangement signed after Mrs. Etta Mae Carter's passing." Ruth held out her hand. "Let me see it." He passed it to her. I watched Ruth's face, not the paper. Her eyes moved once down the page, then again, slower. "Ms. Carter," she said, "have you seen this before?" "No." Daddy scoffed. "You forget things when it helps you." Ruth turned the paper toward me. At the top, somebody had typed Carter Family Occupancy Agreement. Beneath it, my name sat in a crooked line. Marlene Carter. Not my handwriting, not even close. Whoever wrote it made the M too tall and the C too round. I have signed payroll forms for 27 years. I know my own hand. The amount was $600, not $900. Effective date, April 2023, witnessed by Rebecca Carter. Rebecca lowered her eyes. I looked at her. You witnessed this? She swallowed. Voss said, Mrs. Carter can answer if called. Ruth said, she's in the room. Rebecca's fingers tightened around her purse strap. I witnessed Daddy signing. Daddy snapped. Rebecca. She flinched, but kept going. I didn't see Marlene sign. Voss's face changed. Marcus turned toward his wife. What are you doing? Rebecca stared at the table, telling it. The room took another step toward truth. Ruth placed the page flat. Mr. Voss, who provided this document? My client. Mr. Carter, where did this come from? Daddy's voice stayed hard. Family records. Which family records? My file. Where was it kept? At my house. Who prepared it? He looked at Voss. Voss looked at the page. Ruth waited. She could wait longer than guilt. Daddy said, it was drawn up after Mama passed. By whom? I don't remember. I said, Daddy? He would not look at me. I kept my voice even. You remember the brand of coffee Grandma bought in 1986? You remember who scratched your truck outside Deacon's Hardware? You remember every dollar you say I owe. Who prepared that paper? His eyes came to me then. They were not fatherly. They were cornered. I said I don't remember. Ruth wrote the words down. Voss reached for the agreement. We may need to authenticate that separately. Ruth did not give it back. I'll copy it for the file. It's my exhibit. It's in a county conference now. It was provided voluntarily and received carefully. That was Ruth, polite as a church bulletin, sharp as a staple. Dwayne rubbed both hands over his cap. Daddy, why'd you bring that? Daddy turned on him. You hush. Dwayne's voice came low. You told me there wasn't any signature stuff. Dwayne, Marcus warned. No, Dwayne said. I'm tired. Daddy stared at his younger son. You're tired? Yes. From what? Watching? Dwayne took that hit because it was deserved. Then he looked at me. I didn't see that paper before. I nodded once. That did not forgive him. It placed him. Voss cleared his throat. Even setting that document aside, Ms. Carter has made regular payments to my client. That pattern supports a family contribution obligation. I opened the accordion file again. Ruth's eyes came to me. Ms. Carter? I pulled out the payroll deposit summary. This is 6 years of direct deposit splits from Buckeye Medical Supply. $1,500 monthly to Leonard Carter's account. Total calculated through last month, $240,000. Marcus breathed out hard. Here we go with that number. I turned the page toward him. Which month is wrong? He looked away. I said, pick one. No one picked one. Voss said, family support is not rent. That's right, I said. So why did your client count it as support to the bank and still bill me rent? Voss went still. Ruth looked up. What bank? I opened another sleeve. Lake County Mutual Bank. Collateral review involving 18 Juniper Hill Road. Temporary hold issued yesterday pending ownership documentation. Daddy's chair scraped. You called my bank? I looked at him. They emailed me. You had no right. They used my name. Voss turned toward Daddy. Leonard. Daddy's face went flat. He had forgotten his lawyer did not know everything. That was the problem with lying in layers. Even the people helping you stepped in holes. Ruth held out her hand. May I see the bank email? I passed it over. She read in silence. Then she looked at Voss. Is 18 Juniper Hill Road part of a pending refinance? Voss pressed his lips together. I'm not prepared to discuss bank matters. Ruth nodded. Then don't. Daddy said, that house was supposed to help the family. There it was, not law, not ownership. Supposed. I repeated it softly. Supposed. He jabbed a finger at the blue folder. Mama wouldn't have wanted you acting like this. I put my palm on the folder. Grandma wrote what she wanted. Voss's eyes moved to it. What is that? My folder. Containing? Paper. Marcus leaned forward. Stop being smart. I looked at him. I'm being exact. Tanya made a small sound, not laughter, not quite. Marcus heard it and turned. She looked back at him this time. Ruth said, Mr. Voss, your client sent a 30-day notice to vacate. Is that still his position? Yes, Voss said. Daddy said, yes. Both men answered at once. That told me something. Voss was working law. Daddy was working pride. Ruth wrote both answers. On what date does your notice demand Ms. Carter leave? Voss looked at his copy. August 9th. And if she does not? We pursue remedies. Ruth's pen stopped. Which remedies? Appropriate civil remedies. Name them. Voss gave her a careful smile. Ruth, this is not a deposition. No, it's a probate conference where your client is attempting to collect rent and remove a resident from property tied to a decedent's estate. Name the remedy. He clicked his pen once. Eviction. Daddy nodded. If she won't respect family. Ruth looked at him. You would evict your daughter from your mother's house? Daddy's face hardened. She's 52. I asked a different question. She's grown. Still not my question. Daddy leaned back. If she won't pay what she owes, yes. I felt that in my chest. Not surprise. Confirmation can still bruise. Ruth set her pen down. Ms. Carter, do you have counsel? Ruth Bellamy is not my counsel. She's the clerk. I have an appointment with Attorney Shaw this afternoon. Voss frowned. Shaw? Elaine Shaw. Daddy looked at Voss. Who's that? Voss did not answer right away. She handles property fraud and elder financial matters. The word fraud entered the room like a clean blade. Daddy snapped, nobody defrauded anybody. I said, then the papers will be easy. He turned on me. You always did think you were better. Sitting in that office, talking proper, carrying folders like white folks taught you how to be somebody. The room stopped. Not quiet. Stopped. Ruth slowly put both hands flat on the table. Mr. Carter? Daddy's mouth worked once. He knew he had said too much. He did not take it back. I looked at him. My father, Leonard Carter, retired factory foreman, deacon board usher until he fell out with Pastor Gaines over the building fund. A man who called my steady work arrogance because it kept him from calling it theft. I said, say the part you mean. Voss said, Ms. Carter. No, Ruth said. Daddy's eyes cut to Ruth. She looked at him with no softness. Did you mean your daughter should be grateful, or did you mean the black woman in this room should know her place? Voss stood halfway. Objection. Ruth did not look at him. Sit down. This is not your courtroom. He sat. Daddy's neck flushed. You twisting my words. Ruth said, I wrote them down. I looked at the page beneath her pen. Carrying folders like white folks taught you how to be somebody. There it was, captured in blue ink. Not rumor, not feeling. Record. Marcus stared at the blinds. Rebecca stared at her lap. Dwayne closed his eyes. Tanya looked at me, and this time she did not look away. Ruth said, Mr. Carter, I'm going to explain something. This office does not decide your family's love. It does decide what papers say. If you make this office part of an intimidation effort, that becomes its own record. Daddy's voice dropped. I'm not intimidated by you. You don't need to be. She turned to me. Ms. Carter, do you wish to provide documentation today or through counsel? I knew what she was asking. She was giving me control over timing, not delay, control. I touched the blue folder, then the accordion file. Through counsel for contested matters. But I'll provide enough today to stop the false rent claim from being treated as uncontested. Ruth nodded. That's appropriate. Voss looked relieved for half a second. Then I opened the accordion file and took out the certified county index page. Not the deed sentence, not Grandma's letter, not yet. Just the index showing a recorded instrument existed, with book, page, parcel, and date. I slid it to Ruth. Voss leaned to see it. Ruth read the top line. Her face did not change, but her thumb pressed the paper once. Recorded transfer on death designation, she said. Daddy's head turned slowly. Marcus sat up. What does that mean? Voss answered too fast. It means there may be a beneficiary designation. Maybe? I asked. He ignored me. We need the full instrument. Ruth looked at him. You'll receive it through counsel. Daddy stared at the paper. Mama didn't do that. Ruth said the county recorder accepted something. She didn't. The recorder stamp says otherwise. That ain't her. I kept my hand on the blue folder. You haven't seen it. I know my mama. No, I said. You knew what she let you know. That landed harder than I expected. Daddy's eyes moved just once toward the floor. Then pride found him again. Voss gathered himself. A TOD designation is not necessarily dispositive if questions exist regarding capacity, undue influence, or improper execution. Ruth nodded. Then plead that properly. We may. May is not today. Daddy said, I'm contesting it. Ruth looked at him. On what ground? She was old. Age is not a ground. She was sick. Diagnosis? He looked at Voss. Ruth continued. Physician letter, guardianship, capacity finding? Daddy's mouth tightened. Ruth said, anything? Rebecca whispered. She was sharper than all of us. Marcus slammed his hand lightly on the table. Rebecca. She turned to him. She was. Ruth wrote that down too. Voss's pen clicked again. We reserve all rights. Reserved, Ruth said. Meanwhile, the rent demand is disputed, the occupancy agreement is challenged, and your client has been advised that ownership documentation exists contrary to his claim. Daddy said, this don't end here. No, I said, it doesn't. He looked at me then, and for the first time that morning, I saw fear show its face. Not fear of me, fear of the file behind me, fear of Lake County Mutual, fear of the number 240,000 being read by someone who did not owe him obedience. Ruth looked at Tanya. Mrs. Carter, you brought copies? Tanya's face went pale. Marcus turned toward her. Copies of what? Ruth waited. Tanya opened her purse. Her hand shook, but the pages came out straight. She placed them on the table and pushed them toward Ruth. Loan worksheet, she said. Tax notice, refinance support list. Marcus stood. Tanya, get up. She did not move. He pointed at the door. Now! Ruth's voice cut in. Mr. Carter, sit down or leave. She's my wife. She's a person in a county building. Tanya looked at Marcus. I'm staying. His face went hot. You don't know what you're doing. Yes, she said. I do. It was not loud. It did not need to be. Ruth took the pages. Thank you. Daddy's eyes went to Tanya with a look I had seen all my life. He was adding her to the bill in his mind. Some men can turn any woman's truth into a debt. Voss leaned toward Daddy and spoke low. I could not catch the words. Ruth could. Counsel, she said. No whispered instruction about removing documents from this room. Voss sat back. That was not my instruction. Good. I watched Marcus. His anger had nowhere clean to stand. He had asked me for money. He had eaten at Grandma's table. He had watched his wife carry copies he thought fear would keep hidden. His moral verdict sat there with him. Marcus had chosen advantage until advantage embarrassed him. Dwayne cleared his throat. Ruth. She looked at him. State your name. Dwayne Carter. Yes. I asked you before if a deed could be undone. Ruth's face stayed neutral. You asked generally. I know. I'm saying I did. Daddy hissed. Dwayne? Dwayne kept going. Daddy told me Grandma's house needed to stay available for the family. I didn't ask Marlene. I should have. Ruth wrote. Did you sign any bank documents? No. Did you attend bank meetings? No. Voss said, this is outside scope. Ruth looked at him. Your client made the bank part of scope. Dwayne turned his cap in his hands. I knew about the bait shop balance, not all of it, some. How much? I asked. He looked at me. 48,200. My own number came back from his mouth. That mattered. Did you know my paycheck was listed? He shut his eyes once. After Sunday. Before Sunday? No. I believed that much. Not all of him. That much. Ruth turned to Rebecca. Mrs. Rebecca Carter. Rebecca's face lifted. Did you attend a Lake County Mutual meeting regarding 18 Juniper Hill Road? Rebecca looked at Marcus, then at Daddy, then at me. Yes. Daddy said, don't answer that. Ruth's voice stayed even. He is not your attorney. Rebecca nodded. Yes, I went. Why? Dwayne couldn't go. Marcus told me they needed another family member there. Marcus said, I said witness. Ruth asked, what did you witness? Rebecca's lips pressed together. Daddy said the house would be available after Marlene moved or paid rent. The room went cold. I did not move. Ruth wrote slowly. After Marlene moved or paid rent. Rebecca nodded. That's what he said. Voss rubbed his forehead. Daddy leaned toward Rebecca. You weak little thing. She flinched harder than before, but this time she spoke back. No, I'm late. That sentence almost broke something open in me. Not forgiveness, recognition. Late was not clean. Late still arrived. Ruth set down her pen. Mr. Voss, I recommend you advise your client before he speaks again. Voss turned to Daddy. Leonard stopped talking. Daddy stood. The chair legs barked against the floor. I'm done with this circus. Ruth said, you may leave. The documents remain. He looked at me. You think paper makes you safe? I looked back. Safer than your word. His face twisted. You'll regret this. Voss stood fully then. Leonard. Ruth's voice hardened for the first time. Mr. Carter, threats do not belong here. Daddy pointed at the blue folder. That woman put you up to this. I knew he meant Grandma. Dead 3 years and still harder to bully than the living. I said, Grandma put her name where yours wasn't. He stared at me. Then he grabbed his hat from the table and walked out. Marcus hesitated, torn between following Daddy and dragging Tanya with him by words alone. Tanya did not rise. That decided him. He went after Daddy. The door closed, not slammed. Closed by a man who still thought rooms should miss him. Voss remained standing with his leather folder against his chest. This conference has become unproductive. Ruth said, it has produced plenty. He looked at me. Ms. Carter, all future communication should go through counsel. That's what I asked yesterday. His mouth tightened. Fine. Ruth gathered the papers into 3 piles. I'll make copies for the probate file and mark contested documents as disputed. The alleged occupancy agreement will not be treated as admitted. Voss said, alleged? Ruth looked at him. Yes. I said, "What about the eviction notice?" Ruth turned to me. "Your attorney can respond formally, but this office has record that the ownership claim is disputed and supported by a recorded instrument index." Enough to stop them? Enough to make them explain themselves outside a kitchen. That was all I wanted that morning. Not victory. A room with rules. Tanya exhaled, and it sounded like she had been holding breath since Sunday. Rebecca stood slowly. "Marlene." I looked at her. "I should have told you." "Yes." I was ashamed. "Yes." She nodded, accepting both. Then she picked up her purse and left without waiting for Marcus. Dwayne stayed seated. Voss looked at him like he was an unswept corner, then left too. When the door shut behind him, only Ruth, Tanya, Dwayne, and I remained. Ruth removed her glasses. "You did well." "I didn't do much." "You stayed seated." I looked at the table, at the rent bill copy, at the false agreement, at Tanya's loan pages, at the county index. Stayed seated sounded small. It was not. Dwayne stood. "Marlene, can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Did Grandma leave a letter?" I did not answer right away. The copy was in my purse, warm from being near my side. Ruth watched me, but did not help. I said, "Yes." Dwayne's eyes wet. "Did she mention me?" "No." He took that like a sentence. Maybe it was. Tanya stood too. "I need to go before Marcus gets home." I looked at her. "Do you have somewhere safe to be?" She nodded. "My sister's, in Paynesville. Go there." I packed a bag. "Good." Dwayne looked at her. "Tanya." She held up one hand. "Not today." He nodded and stepped back. Ruth walked us to the copier room herself. She copied Tanya's pages, the bank email, the index sheet, the tax receipt, and the false occupancy agreement. Each page came out warm and smelling of toner. I stacked them in order. Ruth stamped each copy received, date, and time. July 8th, 2026, 9:43 a.m. The stamp sounded like a little hammer. Ruth handed me my set. "Take these to Elaine Shaw." "I will." "And Marlene?" "Yes." "Do not meet them alone in that kitchen again." I thought of Grandma's table, the rent bill, Daddy's hand sliding it across like he owned both wood and woman. "I won't." Outside the conference room, the hallway had changed. Same water fountain, same courthouse tile, same people pretending not to listen. But I was not carrying the same weight. Daddy and Marcus were near the front doors. Voss was talking low into his phone. Daddy saw me and stepped forward. Mr. Hollis moved from his post without drama and stood just close enough. Daddy noticed him. "I'm talking to my daughter." "Mr." Hollis said, "Then talk from there." Daddy's eyes flicked to his badge. "Everybody got a uniform today." I walked toward him until we were 6 feet apart. He said, "You bringing strangers into family business." "No. You brought banks, lawyers, and rent notices." Marcus said, "You could still fix this." I looked at him. "How?" "Withdraw whatever Grandma signed. Let Daddy refinance. We can work out the rent." There it was. Even after all that, he still saw a negotiation. My house, my wages, my silence. All separate buttons he could push. I said, "No." Marcus's jaw moved. "Just no?" "Yes." Daddy's voice dropped. "You're choosing paper over blood." I looked at my father in his brown suit, the one he wore when he wanted people to remember he had once stood at factory gates and told grown men what to do. I did not hate him in that moment. Hate would have taken too much room. "I'm choosing the truth over a bill." He stepped back like I had put a hand on him. Voss returned from his call. His face had gone pale around the mouth. "Leonard," he said, "we need to go." Daddy did not move. Why? Lake County Mutual wants a call by noon. I felt Ruth beside me before I saw her. Voss looked past us. They received notice of the temporary hold and the disputed instrument. Ruth said, "From whom?" Voss did not answer. I said, "From their own risk department, I expect." He looked at me then, not with contempt, with calculation. That was not better. It was simply more honest. Daddy said, "They can wait." Voss shook his head. "No, they can't." Marcus looked between them. "What happens at noon?" Voss closed his folder. "If ownership cannot be documented, the collateral review fails." Daddy's face changed. The room had finally found his wound. I thought of every month I had sent $1,500 out of my paycheck. I thought of groceries put back at the register, dental work delayed, a winter coat worn 1 year too long, birthday cards with cash inside for other people's children while I ate soup over the sink. 6 years of being told family needed me. Needed. That word had covered too much. Daddy stared at me like I had caused the debt by naming it. I said, "You should take that call." He said nothing. "Mister." Hollis opened the courthouse door for me. Outside, Bell Street was bright now. Traffic moved past the bakery and the florist. Somebody laughed near the parking meters. Life had no shame about continuing. Ruth stopped on the courthouse steps. "Elaine's office is 2 blocks down, above the pharmacy." "I know. You have everything?" I touched the accordion file. "Yes." "And the blue folder?" I held it under my arm. "Yes." She nodded. "Then go let counsel do counsel." Tanya came through the doors behind us with her purse pressed to her ribs. "Marlene," she said. I turned. She looked smaller in daylight. Not weak. Just tired of making herself acceptable to louder people. "Thank you for asking if I had somewhere to go." "You answered." "I'm going there now." "Good." She hesitated. "I don't expect you to trust me." "I don't." She nodded. "That's fair." Then she walked down Bell Street alone, not fast, not slow. Marcus did not follow. That was one moral verdict, not full redemption. Just one woman choosing a sidewalk. Dwayne came out last. He stood near the courthouse planter with his cap back on. "Marlene." I waited. "If Elaine asks, I'll tell her what I said in there. Tell her more than that." He nodded. "I will." "And Dwayne?" "Yes?" "Don't make me pull truth out of you twice." He looked ashamed. "I won't." I crossed Bell Street at the light and walked toward the pharmacy building. My church gloves were still in my purse beside Grandma's copied letter, the blue folder pressed against my ribs with every step. At the corner, my phone buzzed. One email, Lake County Mutual Bank. Subject, Collateral Review Status. I stopped under the pharmacy awning and opened it. "Dear Ms. Carter, pending receipt of recorded ownership documentation and review of disputed representations, Lake County Mutual has suspended consideration of 18 Juniper Hill Road as collateral in the Leonard Carter refinance file." Suspended. Not solved. Not finished. But suspended was a doorstop. I printed the email at Elaine Shaw's office 7 minutes later. Her receptionist, a woman with silver glasses and a tight bun, looked at my stack and then at me. "Ms. Shaw is expecting you." Elaine Shaw came to the doorway herself. She was tall, brown-skinned, and older than me by maybe 10 years. Her gray locks were pinned at the back of her head. She wore no nonsense on her face. I liked her before she spoke. "Marlene Carter?" "Yes. I got Ruth's message. Come in." Her office looked over Main Street. No soft piano, no family pictures on the desk. Just law books, a scanner, and a clean yellow pad. She pointed to the chair. "Tell me what they tried to take." I sat down and placed the blue folder on her desk. Then I opened the accordion file. Start with the rent bill? She asked. No, I said. Start with my paychecks. Elaine did not touch the folder first. She touched the rent bill. That told me something. A lawyer who grabs the biggest-looking document is hunting for drama. Elaine Shaw reached for the thing they had used to shame me at a kitchen table. She read the top line, then the bottom. $900. Yes. Due when? First of the month. Back rent? They didn't say that Sunday, but the paper says it. She tapped the page once. 3 months alleged arrears, $2,700. I saw that after I got home. Elaine looked over her glasses. They handed you a bill for a debt they invented after spending your wages? Yes. That yes came out plain. I had practiced telling the truth without decorating it. The truth already had furniture. Elaine lifted the occupancy agreement. This signature isn't yours. No. Did you ever sign a lease? No. Did you ever agree to rent? No. Did you ever pay Leonard rent? No. I gave him money because he said the family needed help. How much? $1,500 a month, sometimes more. For how long? 6 years. Elaine's pen stopped. Say the total. $240,000, not counting groceries, insurance help, or the bait shop transfer. How much was that? $48,200. She wrote it down. Her handwriting was small and sharp. Who got that transfer? Dwayne's bait shop account. Daddy asked for it. Dwayne knew part of it. Part is not a defense. I know. Elaine leaned back and looked at me. The office window behind her showed Main Street moving along like ordinary life had not just been put on a yellow legal pad. A delivery truck passed. A woman in scrubs walked fast with coffee in her hand. In my purse, my church gloves sat folded beside Grandma's letter. I was a black woman with deep brown skin and silver in my braids, sitting across from another black woman who knew exactly how calm can be mistaken for consent. Elaine said, Marlene, did anyone ever call these payments loans? No. Gifts? No. What word did Leonard use? Borrow. How often? Every time he needed it. She wrote borrow in quotation marks. Good. It doesn't feel good. It's useful. Different thing. That made me breathe through my nose. Useful I can handle. She took the Lake County Mutual email next. Suspended consideration of the house as collateral, she read. Pending recorded ownership documentation and review of disputed representations. Yes. Who gave them your pay stubs? I don't know yet. You think Leonard? I think Marcus had access. I sent him copies for health insurance questions 2 years ago. He said he was helping Daddy compare retirement plans. Elaine's eyes lifted. Was he? No. Did you authorize him to give your payroll records to a bank? No. Did the bank ask you directly? No. She drew a box around something on her pad. That opens a second lane. I did not like second lanes. Second lanes meant more road. What lane? Unauthorized financial information, misrepresentation to a lender, possibly identity misuse, depending what was attached. My social security number was on one sheet. Full, last 4 on the pay stubs, full on the refinance worksheet Tanya copied. Elaine's pen moved again. Who prepared the worksheet? Voss's office sent part, bank filled part. Daddy's name is on top. Do you have the email chain? Tanya brought printouts. Ruth stamped them. Good. Good. That word felt different in Elaine's office. Not cheerful, not soft. It meant a board had been put under my feet. She opened the blue folder last. Her fingers paused on the funeral program, then moved to the deed copy. She read in silence. I watched her face, because lawyers try not to show too much when paper does the speaking. Elaine's mouth tightened once. "What?" I asked. "This is clean." "Clean enough?" "Clean is clean." She turned the page. Recorded May 14th, 2021. Transfer on death designation affidavit. Etta Mae Carter owner. Beneficiary Marlene Carter. 100% interest. Property address 18 Juniper Hill Road. I had heard Ruth say it. Still, hearing Elaine say it felt like the floor answering. Elaine looked at me. "Did Leonard know?" "No." "Did Grandma tell you?" "No." "Did you find the original recording receipt?" "Yes, in her sewing drawer." "Where is it?" I pulled the small envelope from my accordion file. "Here." Elaine smiled for the first time, but it was quick. Ruth said Etta Mae always did things with a receipt. She did. Who opened the drawer? I did. The key was taped behind Grandma's church picture. Elaine took the receipt and held it by the edges. "This matters." I thought the deed mattered. The deed matters most. The receipt shows intent, timing, and custody. It answers the family story that the paper appeared from nowhere. Daddy already said Grandma didn't do that. He can say the moon is payroll. I still need documents. I almost smiled then. Almost. Elaine scanned each page. The machine beside her desk pulled them in with a steady hum. Rent bill. False agreement. Paycheck transfer spreadsheet. Bank email. Tax notice. Loan worksheet. Recording receipt. Grandma's letter. When the letter went through the scanner, I put my hand on the edge of the desk. Elaine noticed. "Do you want that excluded?" "No." "You're sure?" "Grandma left it for this." Elaine nodded and read it, not aloud at first. Her eyes moved down the page. Then she asked, "May I read one sentence?" "Yes." She said, "Baby, this house is not payment. It is shelter." My throat closed, but no tears came. I had cried enough in private years before this story found a courtroom. I had cried standing at Grandma's sink, washing plates after feeding men who called me blessed when my check cleared. Elaine set the letter down carefully. "Leonard's problem is that your grandmother wrote like a witness. She always did." She named the pattern without naming a lawsuit. "What happens now?" Elaine capped her pen. "First, I send Voss a preservation letter. Nobody destroys records. Nobody contacts you directly. Nobody enters the Juniper Hill property without permission." "That includes Daddy?" "That includes everyone. He has a key. Change the locks today." I looked up. "Can I?" "You own the house." Those 4 words did more than comfort me. They corrected my posture. Elaine continued. "Second, I respond to the rent demand and notice to vacate. The response will say there is no landlord-tenant relationship, no valid lease, and no ownership interest held by Leonard Carter. Will that stop him from coming by? It gives the police and the court a clear record. My cousin's son is police chief. Ruth told me. I looked toward the window. Maple Ridge was the kind of town where everybody knew who parked crooked and who sat in whose pew. That could protect you or trap you, depending on who held the story first. Elaine said, "And what about the ones who don't have a son who's the police chief?" I turned back to her. She held my eyes. "That's the question under this one." I had not said it yet, but I had felt it since the courthouse hallway. I felt it when Mr. Hollis stepped in front of Daddy without asking me to beg. I felt it when Ruth stamped the pages. I felt it sitting in Elaine's chair, watching a black woman lawyer put my life into clean categories people in power could not pretend were kitchen noise. "What do you mean?" I asked. Elaine opened a drawer and pulled out a thin folder. "I can't share names, but I can tell you this. Lake County Mutual has had prior complaints about family collateral representations, older relatives, informal property promises, mostly women, mostly black families on the east side and out by Maple Grove. I went still. Grandma? Not her complaint, not that I can see. Then who? I can't say. But you know. I know enough to ask the right agency to look. The room narrowed around that, not in fear, in focus. Elaine said, Leonard may be the loudest man in your house. He may not be the only man using that bank's blind spots. Blind spots. That was a polite phrase. It meant somebody looked twice at my bank card when I deposited a check, but did not look once when a retired foreman promised a dead woman's house. I said, What do you need from me? Permission to send your documents to the County Fraud Review Unit and the State Banking Department. Limited scope. Your file only. Ruth's stamped copies included. Do it. Think first. I did that for 6 years. Elaine sat back. I said, Every month, $1,500 left my account. Daddy called it help. Marcus called it family. Dwayne called it temporary. The bank called it support income. Now they call my home collateral. Send it. Elaine wrote one sentence on the pad. Client authorizes referral. Then she looked at the clock. We need the locks changed before Leonard gets back from that noon call. That was not an invented delay. That was a clock with my father's name on it. I stood. I can call Mr. Perkins. The locksmith? Yes, he changed Grandma's back door after the winter storm. Call from here. I dialed before my courage could get dressed up and leave. Mr. Perkins answered on the 4th ring. Perkins lock. Mr. Perkins, it's Marlene Carter, Etta Mae's granddaughter. His voice softened. Marlene, you all right? I need the locks changed at 18 Juniper Hill Road today. A pause. All of them? Yes. You got paperwork? I have the deed and my attorney. Elaine held out her hand for the phone. I gave it to her. Mr. Perkins, this is Elaine Shaw. Ms. Carter owns the property. I'll email you confirmation and meet your invoice from my trust account if needed. Can you be there within the hour? He said something I could not hear. Elaine answered, Good. Front, back, porch side, and garage. Another pause. Yes, she said. If Leonard Carter appears, you call me and you call Maple Ridge Police. In that order, if safe. She handed the phone back. Mr. Perkins said, Marlene, I'll be there in 40 minutes. Thank you. Your grandma always paid exact. She taught me. She sure did. I hung up and felt the first real shiver of the day. Not fear, motion. Elaine printed 2 letters while I watched. One to Voss, one to Lake County Mutual. Her printer clicked like it had done this work before. Read the first paragraph, she said. I took the page. Dear Mr. Voss, this firm represents Marlene Carter regarding 18 Juniper Hill Road, Maple Ridge, Ohio, and all related claims made by Leonard Carter or persons acting on his behalf. I stopped. All related claims. Yes. That includes my paychecks? It includes anything they tied to this house. I read on. The letter said the rent demand was rejected. The occupancy agreement was disputed. The notice to vacate had no legal basis from Leonard. All documents, communications, drafts, bank submissions, texts, emails, and notes had to be preserved. I looked up. Texts too? Texts too. Marcus deletes things. Then he can explain that later. Elaine signed both letters. Her signature did not curl or flourish. It stood there and meant itself. By the time I left her office, Main Street had filled with lunch traffic. I carried the accordion file against my chest and the blue folder under my arm. Elaine walked with me to the stairwell. Do not go inside alone if anyone is there, she said. I won't. If Leonard calls, don't answer. He'll call. I know. What if he leaves messages? Save them. What if he comes to the porch? Do not open the door. I nodded. Elaine said, Marlene. Yes. You are going to feel rude today. I knew what she meant. She said, feel it, and keep moving. I drove to Juniper Hill with both hands on the wheel. Maple Ridge looked too normal for what I was doing. The bakery sign still blinked. The florist had buckets of yellow flowers by the door. Bell Street turned into Juniper Hill Road after the old brick church, and there was Grandma's white house sitting back from the curb with its green shutters and narrow porch. Grandma had kept that porch swept, not spotless, lived in. 2 chairs, 1 plant stand, a small table with a ring mark from her iced tea glass. Mr. Perkins's van sat at the curb when I arrived. He stood by the front steps with his tool bag. He was a wiry man with a gray mustache and a ball cap that had seen better seasons. You got here fast, I said. So did Trouble. My stomach tightened. Who? He nodded toward the driveway. Daddy's brown sedan was parked crooked behind the garage. For a second, I heard nothing but my own breathing. Then Daddy stepped from the side yard with his phone in his hand. Marlene, he said. I stayed by my car. You need to leave. He laughed once. This is my mother's house. It was. His face hardened. Don't play words. Mr. Perkins moved 1 step down from the porch. Leonard, I'm here to change locks. Daddy looked at him. You ain't changing nothing. Mr. Perkins said, I got instructions. From who? Owner and counsel. Daddy's eyes came to me. You went and hired that woman. That woman is my attorney. You think she cares about you? Yes. He stepped closer, not close enough to touch, close enough to remind me he once decided when rooms ended. I did not move. He said, Lake County Mutual embarrassed me. No, they asked for proof. You know what happens if that refinance fails? Yes. No, you don't. His voice dropped. The tax lien hits. The second mortgage resets. That shop note comes due. Then you should have borrowed less. His mouth opened, then closed. The word borrowed had come back to him with teeth. He pointed toward the porch. Your grandma wanted family here. She left me the house. She was confused. Then say that to Elaine. I'm saying it to you. I'm not the place to file it. Mr. Perkins looked at me, waiting. I took my phone out and called Elaine. She answered fast. Is someone there? Yes. Leonard. Put me on speaker. I did. Elaine's voice filled the small space between my car and Grandma's porch. Mr. Carter, this is Elaine Shaw. You are on notice that Marlene Carter owns 18 Juniper Hill Road. You need to leave the property. Daddy stared at the phone. I'm her father. That is not a legal interest. This is family business. You made it lender business. Mr. Perkins coughed once into his fist. Daddy said, You don't know me. Elaine answered, I know the documents. He looked at me. You hiding behind another woman now? I thought of Ruth at the courthouse, Tanya on the sidewalk, Rebecca saying she was late, Elaine on the phone, Grandma in her letter. I said, No, I'm standing with them. His face shifted, and there it was again. That contempt that had lived under all his instructions. He looked at my braids, my work blouse, my sensible shoes, my brown hands holding the phone. You always did get above yourself, he said. Office job made you think you're different from the rest. I kept my voice level. Different from who? He scoffed. You know. Elaine said through the phone. Mr. Carter, finish that sentence carefully. He did not. That was the thing about men like my father. They wanted the wound understood without the record catching the knife. I said, "People like me?" His eyes narrowed. I let the words sit on Juniper Hill Road in daylight. People like me, his own daughter. A black woman who paid his bills until he mistook my discipline for a leash. Elaine said, "Mr. Carter, leave now." Daddy looked toward the house. "My tools are in the garage." "I'll have counsel arrange a pickup," I said. "My fishing rods." "Same." "My mother's rocker." "No." His head snapped back. "What?" "Grandma's rocker stays. You don't get to decide that." "I own the house." He took one step toward me. Mr. Perkins said, "Leonard." It was not loud. It was enough. Daddy stopped. Then another car turned onto Juniper Hill. Marcus's truck. Of course. He pulled up behind Daddy's sedan, got out, and looked at Mr. Perkins first, then me. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Changing locks." Marcus looked almost hurt. That insulted me more than anger would have. You can't just lock out family. I can lock out people who tried to evict me from my own house. He looked at Daddy. The bank called again. Daddy said, "Not here." Marcus ignored him. Panic made him careless. "They want the support income verified. They want Marlene to sign something." I turned my head slowly. "What something?" Marcus froze. Elaine's voice came sharp through the phone. "Mr. Carter, answer." Marcus looked at the phone. "Who's that?" "My attorney," I said. He swallowed. "It's just a certification." "What certification?" Daddy barked. "Marcus." I said, "Say it." Marcus rubbed both hands over his face. That the transfers were voluntary continuing support for Leonard's household and business obligations. There it was. The next rung. Elaine said, "Who drafted that?" Marcus did not answer. I said, "Voss?" "No." "Lake County Mutual?" "No." "Then who?" Marcus's shoulders fell. "I did." Daddy turned on him. "Fool." Marcus snapped back. "They were going to deny it." "They already denied it because you talk too much." I watched them, father and son, both angry that the lie had not been managed better, not ashamed, managed. Elaine said, "Marlene, ask whether he used your signature." My hand tightened around the phone. "Marcus, did you sign my name?" He stared at the porch steps. "Marcus." "It was a draft." "Did you sign my name?" "I didn't send it." "Did you sign my name?" He looked at Daddy, and Daddy looked away. That was answer enough, but I waited. Numbers and signatures deserve full names. Marcus said, "Yes." Mr. Perkins took off his cap and put it back on. Elaine's voice stayed even. "Was the signed certification submitted to Lake County Mutual?" Marcus shook his head. "Words," Elaine said. "No." "Where is it?" "At my house." "Preserve it. Do not destroy it. Do not alter it. You are now directly on notice." Marcus's face went gray under the summer light. "This is getting out of hand." I almost laughed. Not because anything was funny, because he thought the hand was the problem. He had liked it fine when it was reaching into my account. I said, "Tanya brought copies." His head jerked toward me. "What copies?" "Enough." Daddy said, "That woman had no right." I looked at him. She had a conscience. Marcus stepped back like the word had found him. Elaine said, "Marlene, tell Mr. Perkins to proceed if they leave." I looked at Daddy. "Leave." Daddy's mouth twisted. "You're really doing this?" "Yes." After all I did. I heard the opening line again in my head. Grateful. I saw the $900 rent bill sliding across Grandma's table. I saw my father's hand, broad and steady, acting like my life was an account he could rebalance. I said, "You billed me for living in Grandma's house." "You lived there free." I paid your life. His eyes flashed. I named it because the porch needed to hear it. $1,500 a month, 72 months, $108,000 in regular transfers. Extra payments, $48,200 to the bait shop. Insurance help, tax help, grocery cards, $240,000 total. Then you sent me a rent bill. Marcus looked down. Daddy said, "Family helps family." No, family doesn't forge leases. His jaw tightened. Family doesn't use pay stubs at a bank. Marcus shut his eyes. Family doesn't promise a dead woman's house. Daddy's face changed at that. Not grief, exposure. A Maple Ridge police cruiser turned onto Juniper Hill then. Mr. Hollis was not inside. It was Officer Leona Pierce, who went to Grandma's church and used to bring her 2 sweet potato pies every Thanksgiving. She parked behind Marcus's truck and stepped out. "Afternoon," she said. Daddy muttered, "Of course." Officer Pierce looked at me. Ms. Carter, Ms. Shaw called for a standby. Elaine said through the phone, "Thank you, officer." Officer Pierce nodded like Elaine could see her. Mr. Carter, you both need to clear the property line while the locksmith works." Daddy said, "This is my family's home." Officer Pierce looked at her notepad. County record shows Marlene Carter as owner. Daddy's face tightened. "You pulled that already?" "Yes." That yes landed like Ruth's stamp. Marcus said, "Can I get my tools?" Officer Pierce asked me, "Do you consent to entry?" "No." Marcus stared at me. "Come on." "No." Officer Pierce wrote, "No entry today. Council can arrange retrieval." Daddy looked at the house one more time. I wondered if he saw his mother's curtains or just the collateral he could not spend. Then he walked to his sedan. Marcus followed, but slower. Before he got in his truck, Marcus turned. "Marlene, I didn't think it would get this far." I said, "You thought I wouldn't." He had no answer for that. Their engines started. Daddy backed out too fast, then braked when Officer Pierce looked up from her pad. Marcus waited, signaled properly, and followed him down Juniper Hill Road like manners could still help. "Mr." Perkins let out a breath. "Well." Officer Pierce looked at me. "You all right?" "Yes." "You want me to stay?" "Please." She stood near the porch while Mr. Perkins changed the locks. Front door, back door, side porch, garage. Each old key came off my ring in my mind as he worked, even before he handed me the new ones. Elaine stayed on the phone until the first lock clicked. "You did well," she said. "I feel rude." "Good. Keep going." I ended the call and stood in Grandma's yard while metal turned inside the door. The house did not look different. That was the strange mercy of it. The shutters still needed washing. The porch table still had the ring from Grandma's tea. The old fuse box by the side steps still had its small rusted latch. Mr. Perkins finished at 2:26 p.m. He wrote the invoice on a carbon pad and handed me 2 new keys. "Want extra copies?" he asked. 2. "For who?" I looked at the house. "Me and Elaine." He nodded. "That's enough for today." Officer Pierce signed his witness line. Then she turned to me. "Miss Carter, I need to ask one thing." "Yes." "Do you want a trespass notice issued now?" The word trespass did not feel like victory. It felt like surgery. "For Leonard and Marcus?" "Yes." I thought of Daddy at Grandma's table, Marcus asking me to fix it in the courthouse hallway, the forged certification sitting somewhere in his house, the rent bill folded into my file. "Yes," I said. Officer Pierce wrote it down. "Dwayne Carter?" I paused. Dwayne had told part of the truth. Late. Not clean, but late had arrived. "Not today," I said. She nodded. Noted. Mr. Perkins handed me the extra keys in a small paper sleeve. Your grandma would have told me to oil that back hinge. She told everybody something. She did. When they left, I stood alone on the porch for the first time as owner. Not granddaughter helping out. Not daughter staying grateful. Owner. I unlocked the front door with my new key. Inside, Grandma's house smelled like lemon oil and old wood. I set the blue folder on the kitchen table. Same place where Daddy had slid that bill. I took the rent notice from my accordion file and laid it flat. $900. 3 months alleged arrears. $2,700. 30 days to vacate. I read it one last time without flinching. Then I folded it once. Not small, not hidden. Just enough to fit in my hand. My phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. I let it ring. A voicemail appeared. I pressed play and set it on speaker. Daddy's voice filled Grandma's kitchen. Marlene, you need to call me before this gets worse. You don't understand what you're doing. People like you need family when papers run out. There it was again. People like you. I saved the message and forwarded it to Elaine. Then I opened the side door and walked to the old fuse box by the steps. Grandma used to keep spare keys in there before everybody got too grown and too entitled. The box was empty now. No key, no string, no little paper label in her handwriting. I put the folded rent bill inside. The latch clicked shut. I stood there with my hand on the metal, and the house was quiet behind me. Quiet did not mean finished. Elaine still had letters to send. Ruth still had copies to file. Lake County Mutual still had questions to answer. Marcus still had a signed draft with my name on it. Daddy still had a noon call that had found him at last. But for that minute, nobody was asking me for $1,500. Nobody was telling me to be grateful. Nobody was charging me rent for shelter Grandma had already given. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Elaine. I answered. Marlene, she said, Lake County Mutual confirmed receipt. They froze the refinance file pending investigation. I closed my eyes once. Say that again. They froze it. For how long? Until ownership, income support, and document authenticity are resolved. I looked at the fuse box. So the house is out. The house is out. And my paychecks? They're now evidence. I leaned against the porch rail Grandma used to wipe with vinegar water every Saturday morning. Elaine said, There's one more thing. I opened my eyes. What? Voss wants a meeting. No. Correct answer. I almost smiled. She continued, I told him all communication stays in writing. Ruth will receive a copy. So will the bank. Good. Also, Officer Pierce sent the trespass notice to my office. It's clean. Thank you. You should eat something. I will. Today, Marlene. Yes. We hung up. I went back inside and made toast in Grandma's kitchen. Not a meal fit for anybody's church bulletin. Just toast, butter, and a glass of water. I ate standing at the counter because sitting at that table still felt like asking permission from ghosts and bills. After I washed the plate, I picked up Grandma's letter again. Baby, this house is not payment. It is shelter. I folded it along the same crease she had made and put it back in the blue folder. Then I took my payroll notebook from my purse and opened to a clean page. I wrote one line at the top. No more transfers. Under it, I wrote the date. July 8th, 2026. Then I wrote the amount that would stay in my account on the first of the month, $1,500. I stared at that number longer than I needed to. It looked almost shy sitting there by itself. For 6 years, it had left me before I could name what I wanted. Dental work, gone. A winter coat, gone. Repairs on my own car, gone. Sundays without dread, gone. Now the number stayed. That was not revenge. That was math coming home. A knock came at the front door. I did not move fast. I checked the window first. Dwayne stood on the porch with both hands visible and his cap tucked under one arm. I opened the door but kept the screen latched. He looked at the latch, then at me. That's fair. What do you need? I brought something. If it's an apology, keep it short. It's not just that. He held up a bank envelope. It's from the bait shop files. My hand stayed on the door frame. What is it? A copy of Daddy's loan application. The first one, before Marcus cleaned it up. I did not open the screen. Dwayne said, "It lists Grandma as living." My stomach went still. She had already passed, he said. I looked at the envelope, then at him. He swallowed. I should have brought it sooner. Yes. I was scared. Yes. I'm still scared. That's new honesty. Not enough, but new. He nodded. Can I leave it? Put it through the mail slot. He did. The envelope landed on Grandma's floor with a soft slap. Dwayne stepped back. Marlene. Yes. I won't ask you to forgive me today. Good. I'll tell Elaine everything. Call her office. I will. He looked past me into the hallway. Daddy's saying Grandma would be ashamed. I said, Grandma kept receipts. Dwayne's mouth trembled once, but he held it. Yeah. I closed the door gently. The envelope stayed on the floor until I called Elaine. I did not touch it before counsel knew. That was a new kind of obedience, not to fear, to order. Elaine answered, and I told her what Dwayne brought. Do not open it yet, she said. I haven't. I'm sending a courier. In Maple Ridge? My receptionist's nephew owes me a favor. Elaine. I'm kidding, mostly. I'll have someone there in 20 minutes. I looked through the front window. Dwayne was still on the sidewalk, wiping his face with one hand before he walked to his car. Do you want him stopped? I asked. No, let him call. If he doesn't, I'll call him. When we hung up, I stood in Grandma's hallway with the blue folder on the table, the bank envelope on the floor, and the new keys in my palm. I thought the deed had been the whole answer. It was the door. Behind it sat the lie my father had told after Grandma was already gone. Not just that the house belonged to family. Not just that my paychecks were support. He had put a living woman on a deadline so a bank would keep listening. The courier came before the toast cooled on the plate. She was young, serious, and wore Elaine's office badge clipped to her blouse. Ms. Carter? Yes. Ms. Shaw said, chain of custody. I pointed. It's there. She photographed the envelope on the floor before picking it up. Then she slid it into a larger sleeve, sealed it, and had me sign across the flap. What's your name? I asked. Nia. Thank you, Nia. She smiled a little. Ms. Shaw said not to let anyone talk me out of stopping here first. Good advice. She gives a lot of that. When Nia left, I locked the new deadbolt and stood with my ear near the door until her car pulled away. Then I went back to the kitchen. Grandma's chair sat at the head of the table. Daddy had sat there Sunday like inheritance came with posture. I put my hand on the back of it, then pulled it out. Not for him, not even for Grandma's memory to do my standing for me. For me. I sat at the head of the table with the blue folder in front of me and my phone beside it. At 4:11 p.m., Elaine called again. Her voice was different, tighter. Marlene. Yes. Nia delivered the envelope. I opened it with my paralegal present. And? The loan application lists Etta Mae Carter as a current resident and contributing household member. My fingers flattened on the table. Elaine continued, It also lists expected monthly support from you at $2,000. $2,000? Yes. I never paid $2,000 monthly. I know. He inflated it. Yes. For the bank. Yes. The kitchen was quiet enough for me to hear the refrigerator kick on. Elaine said, "This moves the matter beyond a family dispute." It was never just that. No. But now the paper agrees. I looked at Grandma's letter. "What happens next?" I asked. "Tomorrow morning, Ruth, the fraud review officer, Lake County Mutual Counsel, Voss, Leonard, and any involved family members will be called into a recorded conference." Tomorrow? Yes. That fast? When a collateral file contains a deceased person listed as living, nobody wants to be last to notice. I sat very still. Elaine said, "You'll be there with me." "Will Daddy?" "He'll be invited. So will Marcus." "Dwayne?" "Yes." "Tanya?" "If she wants counsel, she may come separately. I won't use her as a shield." "Good." Elaine paused. "Marlene, tomorrow is not about arguing your worth." "I know. It's about putting the documents in order." "I can do order." "I know you can." After we hung up, I stayed at Grandma's table as the late light moved across the floor. The house was mine by deed, by receipt, by a dead woman's careful love, and by the simple fact that I had stopped handing pieces of it back to men who called taking by softer names. Borrowed, family, help, rent. I touched the blue folder once, then closed it. Tomorrow, they could bring their lawyer, their bank file, their lowered voices, and every version of my signature they thought looked close enough. I had the deed. I had the receipt. I had the message. And for the first time in 6 years, I had my next paycheck coming to me whole. That night, I slept in Grandma's front room with the lamp on. Not because I was afraid of the dark. I had spent too many years walking through darker things with a grocery list in my hand. I left it on because the house was new to me, in a way it had not been at noon. Every creak belonged to me now. Every pipe knock. Every floorboard Daddy had stepped over like he was counting future dollars. At 6:15 the next morning, I dressed for the conference like I was going to church and court at the same time. Navy dress, low heels, silver-threaded braids pinned neat, Mama's small pearl earrings. I put my church gloves in my purse, though I did not wear them. Some things you carry for posture. Elaine arrived at 8:10 in a gray suit and no patience. She knocked twice, then waited on the porch instead of using the bell. I opened the door. "Morning." She looked me over. "Good. That's all?" "That's enough." I handed her coffee in Grandma's old travel mug. "No sugar." "You remembered." "I process payroll. I remember deductions." Her mouth twitched once. "Bring the blue folder." "It's already in my bag." "And the new keys?" "In my pocket." "Keep them there." We drove downtown in Elaine's car because she said nobody needed to watch me find parking while Leonard Carter rehearsed being wronged. Maple Ridge looked too normal for the kind of morning it was. The bakery on Bell Street had the open sign turned around. The hardware store had mulch stacked out front. A man I knew from Greater Hope lifted 2 fingers when we passed. Elaine said, "You don't have to speak unless I ask you." "I know." "If Leonard speaks to you directly, look at me." "I can do that." "If Marcus tries to apologize in the hallway, keep walking." "I can do that too." She glanced over. "And if Ruth asks you a question?" "I answer Ruth." "That's right." The county building had that old waxed floor smell, mixed with coffee and copy toner. Ruth Bellamy stood near the probate room door with a red file in one hand and her glasses on a chain. She wore a pale yellow blouse, church modest but courthouse sharp. When she saw me, she nodded. "Marlene." "Ruth." "You ate?" "Toast." She looked at Elaine. "That count?" Elaine said, "Barely." Ruth opened the door. "Come on in." The room was bigger than the clerk's counter, but smaller than a courtroom. A long table sat in the middle. A speakerphone waited near the center. Lake County Mutual's counsel, a thin white man named Harold Meeks, sat with a laptop open and a stack of files squared in front of him. The fraud review officer, Ms. Carver, had a tablet and a pen she kept clicking without sound. Voss sat on the far side. He did not look at me first. He looked at Elaine, then Ruth, then the folder in my hand. That told me where his worry lived. Marcus sat 2 chairs down from him. Dwayne sat near the wall by himself. Daddy had taken the seat at the head of the table. Of course he had. Elaine stopped just inside the door. "Mr. Carter, that seat is for the county recorder." Daddy looked up slowly. "I'm fine here." Ruth said, "Leonard." 1 word. Church treasurer voice. Potluck cleanup voice. You know better voice. Daddy pushed back from the chair. "Everybody's making a show." Ruth set her red file at the head of the table. "Sit over there." He moved. Not far, but he moved. That was the first payment of the morning. Elaine sat beside me. I placed the blue folder flat in front of us. Daddy watched my hand. Voss cleared his throat. "Before we begin, my client maintains that this matter has been distorted by emotional family conflict." Ms. Carver said, "We're recording." Voss blinked. "Yes, understood." Ruth pressed a button on the speakerphone. "This is Ruth Bellamy, Deputy Clerk, Maple Ridge County Probate Office. Present are Marlene Carter, Elaine Shaw, Leonard Carter, Marcus Carter, Dwayne Carter, Mr. Voss, Harold Meeks for Lake County Mutual, and Ms. Carver from Fraud Review." Harold Meeks added, "Also present remotely is Bank Compliance Counsel, Judith Raines." A woman's voice came through the speaker. "Good morning," Ruth said. "We're here regarding 18 Juniper Hill Road, transfer on death deed, attempted refinance support, collateral representation, and related occupancy claims." Daddy laughed once under his breath. "Fancy words for my mama's house." Ruth looked at him. "Your mother's name was Etta Mae Carter." His jaw moved. "She had a legal name," Ruth said. "We'll use it." I kept my hands folded. Voss said, "My client does not dispute that his late mother resided at the property." Elaine said, "Nobody asked that." Voss kept going. The family understanding was that the property remained available for family use. Ruth opened her red file. "The recorded deed says otherwise." "We've seen a copy," Voss said. "No," Ruth said. "You've seen Marlene's copy. Today you'll hear the recorded instrument from this office." Daddy leaned back. "Ruth, you knew my mama. Don't act like you don't know what she meant." Ruth took off her glasses. "I knew Etta Mae well enough not to replace her words with yours." The room held still. Dwayne looked at the floor. Marcus pressed both hands together and rested them against his mouth. Ruth put her glasses back on. First, the deed. Elaine touched my wrist once. Not comfort. Signal. Ruth read the recorder number, the date, the parcel description, and Grandma's full name. Then she read the sentence I had already heard, but it did something different in that room. Upon the death of Etta Mae Carter, all interest in the real property located at 18 Juniper Hill Road, Maple Ridge, Ohio, transfers to Marlene Carter, 100%, as sole beneficiary owner. Nobody spoke. Ruth turned the page. Recorded 2 years before Etta Mae Carter passed. Harold Meeks typed something. Ms. Carver stopped clicking her pen. Daddy stared at the table. Voss's face went blank in the professional way men use when their plan just left without them. Elaine said, "The rent demand?" Ruth slid a copy across the table. "Submitted to this office by Ms. Shaw." Voss raised a hand. "That notice was preliminary." Elaine said, "It demanded $900 monthly rent, alleged 3 months arrears, and threatened removal in 30 days. It was not filed." It was sent, Daddy said, because she was living there. I looked at Elaine. Elaine nodded once. I turned to Daddy. In my house. His eyes cut to mine. There it was. Not rage, not surprise, offense. He had heard me claim something and thought I had forgotten my place. He said, "You always did like papers more than people." I said, "I like people who don't forge papers." Voss leaned in. "Marlene." Elaine's voice sharpened. "Do not address my client by first name." Voss sat back. "Ms. Carter." Ruth lifted another document. "Next, Lake County Mutual Application Package, first version." Daddy looked at Marcus. Marcus whispered, "I didn't give her that." Dwayne said, "I did." Daddy turned on him. "Boy." Dwayne lifted his head. "No." One small word, but it had weight. Late weight, but weight. Ruth said, "The application lists Etta Mae Carter as a current resident and contributing household member." Judith Raines spoke through the phone. "Our records show that representation was material to household income review." Harold Meeks said, "It also lists projected family support from Marlene Carter at $2,000 per month." Elaine slid my payroll ledger forward. Actual recurring transfer was $1,500 monthly. No consent exists for any $2,000 support certification. Ms. Carver looked at Daddy. "Mr. Carter, who provided that figure?" Daddy said, "Families don't keep score like that." I thought of 6 years of first-of-the-month mornings. Rent I never charged. Dental work I postponed. A car repair I split over 2 cards. Score. He had kept score every time he spent my silence. Elaine said, "Answer the question." Voss touched Daddy's sleeve. "Do not answer without counsel." Ruth said, "This is not a deposition, but refusal will be noted." Daddy folded his arms. "Note what you want." Ms. Carver wrote something down. Harold Meeks pushed another page forward. The bank also received pay stubs bearing Ms. Carter's employer and income. Elaine said, "My client did not authorize use of those stubs." Voss said, "The documents may have been gathered informally." Elaine turned to him. "From where?" Voss did not answer. I said, "Marcus had copies." Marcus closed his eyes. Daddy said, "You don't know that." Marcus opened them. "She does." Daddy's face changed. "Watch yourself." Marcus looked at me. I used the stubs from the folder Daddy kept in the bait shop office. Ms. Carver said, "What folder?" Marcus swallowed. "A green tax folder." Elaine asked, "With Marlene Carter's payroll documents?" "Yes." "How many years?" "I don't know." "Guess." 4, maybe 5. I did not move. A person can hear another $1,000 leave her life even after the account is closed. The sound is not loud. It is exact. Elaine asked, "Who brought the folder there?" Marcus looked at Daddy. Daddy said, "Don't you put this on me." Marcus's voice got tired. "You told me she was helping. You said she knew." I said family knew. "No," Marcus said. "You said Marlene signed off." Ruth looked over her glasses. "Did she?" Marcus shook his head. "I never saw that." Dwayne said, "Neither did I." Daddy slapped his palm on the table. "Not hard enough to be anything but ugly." "Now everybody's clean but me?" Ruth said, "Hands off my table, Leonard." He pulled back. "Good." Ms. Carver looked at me. "Ms. Carter, did you authorize Leonard Carter, Marcus Carter, or any family business to use your income documents?" "No." "Did you agree to contribute $2,000 monthly to the refinance?" "No." "Did you agree to pay rent to live at 18 Juniper Hill Road?" "No." "Did you know the house had been named as expected collateral?" "No." Each no was short. Each no put a board back under my feet. Harold Meeks said, Lake County Mutual is maintaining the freeze. We will also open internal review on the file history. Elaine said, we request written confirmation today. You'll have it. Judith Raines added, and we will preserve all submitted documents. Elaine nodded. Good. Voss rubbed his forehead. Mr. Carter, I need a moment with you outside. Ruth said, we're not done. Voss looked at her. My client needs counsel. Then counsel him in your chair. Daddy leaned toward Voss and whispered. Voss listened, then went pale around the mouth. Elaine noticed. So did I. Ms. Carver said, is there another document we need to discuss? Voss said, no. Daddy said it was just a draft. Elaine's pen stopped. What was? Voss turned to him. Leonard. Daddy looked at me, angry that his own mouth had outrun him. Nothing. Ruth opened a side pocket in the red file and removed one page in a plastic sleeve. My chest tightened. I had not seen that page before. Ruth said, this office received a copy late yesterday from Ms. Shaw after chain of custody intake. It appears to be an unsigned occupancy certification draft. Elaine leaned close to me. From Nia's envelope, she said quietly. Ruth read the top line. Resident contribution and occupancy certification. Marcus whispered, Lord. Ruth continued. It names Marlene Carter as tenant contributor at 18 Juniper Hill Road and states she agrees to pay $900 monthly rent to Leonard Carter as family property manager. The room went too quiet. Elaine said, my client never saw that. Voss said, it's unsigned. Ruth turned the sleeve toward him. It has initials in the margin. Elaine's voice stayed calm. Those are not hers. Daddy said, you can't know that. I reached into my purse and pulled out my driver's license, my payroll badge, and the notary card I kept for work certifications. I laid them on the table one at a time. I write my M open, I said. That one is closed. Ruth looked at the page. It is. Daddy scoffed. Now handwriting too? I said, I check numbers for a living. I check letters when I have to. Ms. Carver asked, Mr. Carter, who drafted this? Voss said, do not answer. Harold Meek said, the bank did not request this format. Judith Raines said, correct. That is not our form. Elaine looked at Voss. Then whose form is it? Voss spread his hands. I would need to review. Ruth said, your footer is on page 2. Voss froze. I looked at the page again. There it was in small print. Voss Legal Services, Maple Ridge, Ohio. Dwayne put one hand over his mouth. Marcus whispered something I could not hear. Elaine said, Mr. Voss, did your office prepare a rent certification for a property your client did not own? Voss's neck reddened. Based on information provided. By Leonard? My client provided family history. Family history is not title. No. Ruth said, no, it is not. Daddy stood. I'm done sitting here. Officer Pierce stepped into the doorway before he made it 2 steps. I had not seen her come in. Her uniform was crisp and her face was plain with warning. Mr. Carter, she said. Sit down. Daddy stopped. You following me now? No, I'm assigned to the building this morning. Ruth said, I asked her to stand by. Daddy looked at Ruth. You too? Ruth did not blink. Especially me. He sat. That was the second payment. Elaine gathered the documents into a line. Deed, rent notice, loan application, pay stubs, occupancy draft, voicemail transcript. Each page had a place. Each place had a wound under it. She said, here is our position. All direct contact with Ms. Carter ends. The trespass notice stands. Any claim for rent is withdrawn in writing today. Lake County Mutual freezes and preserves the file. Mr. Voss preserves all drafts, emails, notes, and intake records. Leonard Carter provides a written accounting of all funds received from Ms. Carter within 10 business days. Daddy said, "Accounting?" Elaine said, $1,500 monthly for 72 months, plus documented extras. Start there. That money was family support. I said, "Then write down what you supported." He looked at me. I kept going. Write down the bait shop, the tax bills, the insurance, the loan payments, the grocery cards, the cash withdrawals. His mouth tightened. "Write it down," I said. "Numbers don't get tired." Ruth's eyes came to me then, soft for half a second, then back to work. Harold Meeks said, "The bank will send a preservation letter by close of business." Ms. Carver said, "Fraud Review will request interviews." Voss said, "Voluntary interviews?" Ms. Carver looked at him. "For now." Daddy said, "This is ridiculous." Ruth picked up the rent notice. No, ridiculous was billing the owner. There it was, not loud, not fancy, just plain enough to stand. Voss said, "We will withdraw the rent demand without admission." Elaine said, "With apology." "No." "With correction," Elaine said. "Written correction." Voss glanced at Daddy. Daddy stared at the wall. Voss said, "A written correction." Elaine nodded. "Today." Ruth tapped the page in the sleeve. "And this draft?" Voss said, "My office will preserve it." Elaine said, "And stop using it." "Obviously." Ruth said, "Say it for the recording." Voss swallowed. "My office will not use the occupancy certification draft." Officer Pierce shifted near the door. Daddy heard it. We all did. Then Ruth looked at him. "Leonard Carter," she said, "I need to ask you something for this record." Voss said, "Ruth." She kept her eyes on Daddy. "At Sunday dinner, you told Marlene, quote, 'People like you should be grateful we let you stay.' Did you mean your daughter?" Daddy's face hardened. Ruth's voice did not change. "Or did you mean the black woman at the table you thought would keep quiet?" The room had no air for a second. I did not cry. I did not look down. My deep brown hands rested beside Grandma's blue folder, steady and visible. Daddy's eyes moved around the table, looking for a place to put the ugliness. Marcus would not take it. Dwayne would not. Voss could not. Ruth had named it and left it sitting in front of him. Daddy said, "I meant she should know her place." Elaine closed her eyes once. Ruth wrote it down. Ms. Carver wrote it down. Harold Meeks typed it. Officer Pierce looked at my father like she was seeing a man she had known all her life and still had to record correctly. Ruth said, "Your answer is noted." I leaned forward. My voice came out calm. "People like me know our place," I said. "Mine is 18 Juniper Hill Road." Daddy looked at me then. Really looked, not at my account, not at my usefulness. Me. He hated that I was not shaking. Elaine began putting documents back into order. "We're finished unless the bank has more." Judith Raines said, "Nothing further from compliance." Harold Meeks said, "Nothing further." Ms. Carver said, "I'll follow up in writing." Ruth turned off the recorder. The click was small. The ending was not. Daddy stood again, slower this time. He looked at Dwayne first. "You happy now?" Dwayne said, "No." Then Daddy looked at Marcus. "You let them turn you." Marcus rubbed his face. "You handed them the paper." Daddy turned to me last. "You'll need somebody one day." I picked up Grandma's blue folder. I needed somebody for 6 years. He had no line ready for that. Officer Pierce opened the door. Daddy walked out with Voss beside him, but Voss was not walking like a family lawyer anymore. He was walking like a man counting his own exposure. Marcus stayed seated until they were gone. "Marlene," he said. Elaine started to speak, but I lifted one hand. Marcus looked older than he had on Sunday. That did not make him innocent. It made him tired. He said, "I gave Daddy the stubs." "I know." I told myself it was paperwork. "It was my pay." "I know." "No," I said. "You know now." He nodded. "Yeah." Dwayne stood by the wall with his cap twisted in both hands. He did not interrupt. That was the best thing he had done all week. Marcus said, "I'm going to cooperate." "Good. I'll give them the green folder. Give it to Elaine." "I will." I stood. "That's all for today." He looked like he wanted more. Mercy, maybe. A door, maybe. I did not carry either one to that room. Dwayne walked with us to the hallway. He kept a careful distance. "Marlene," he said, "I called Elaine's office last night." Elaine said, "He did." I looked at him. He said, "I told them about the bait shop deposits." "What about them?" He swallowed. "Some of your transfers didn't go straight to Daddy's loans. They passed through the shop first." Elaine's head turned. "Which months?" Dwayne looked at her. "I wrote them down." He pulled a folded sheet from his pocket. Elaine took it with 2 fingers. I said, "You kept a list?" "No, I made it last night from the register copies." "Why?" "Because I heard Daddy say he'd make it look like you invested." There it was, another ladder rung under the same rotten floor. Elaine unfolded the sheet. Her face changed only a little, but I saw it. "How much?" I asked. She read down the page. 36,900. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because even after $240,000, they still found a side door. Dwayne said, he called it owner contribution. I said, "To whose business?" He looked down. "Carter Bait and Tackle." Elaine folded the page again. "This comes with us." Dwayne nodded. "I'll bring the register copies." "Today," Elaine said. "Yes." I looked at my brother. "You understand this doesn't buy you clean." "I do. It buys you useful." He took that without flinching. "I'll be useful." Ruth came into the hallway with her red file tucked under her arm. "Marlene." "Yes." She handed me a plain county envelope. "Certified copy of the deed. Another one." "I already have one." "Have 2. I held it against the blue folder. "Thank you." Ruth lowered her voice. "Your grandmother came in alone that day, hat pinned, purse clasped. She asked me if a daughter could be protected from her own family." My throat tightened, but my face stayed still. "What did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her paper helps when people don't." I looked down at the envelope. Ruth said, "She paid the recording fee in exact cash, $12. $12, I said. She said, "Ruth, make sure they can't talk over this." I closed my eyes once. Ruth touched the red file. They didn't. Outside, the courthouse steps were hot under the July sun. Maple Ridge had moved on around us. A delivery truck blocked half of Main Street. Somebody honked. Somebody else hollered that they were only going to be a minute. Ordinary life, still rude and breathing. Elaine unlocked her car. "We're going to my office." "I need to go to work." She stared at me over the roof. "Marlene." "It's payroll Thursday. Your family tried to turn your pay stubs into bank collateral. And my drivers still need their checks, right?" For the first time all morning, Elaine smiled with her whole face. "Fine, I'll take you to Main and Bell." At the medical supply warehouse, my supervisor, Calvin, met me near the side door. "You okay?" "No." He nodded. "Do you need leave?" 2 hours. "You've got the day." I said 2. He looked at Elaine behind me, then back at me. 2 hours, then you go home. "I can do that." At At my desk, the payroll system waited with its neat rows and totals. I logged in, checked the batch, and found a mileage reimbursement entered twice for Laverne Mitchell. $42.16 too much. I corrected it. Then I sat there with my hand on the mouse. For 6 years, I had made sure everybody else's check was accurate while mine was treated like open storage. I had fixed 4 cents, $42, $900, $1,500, $2,000, $36,900, $108,000, $240,000. Every number had finally stood up. Calvin stopped by my cubicle. Marlene, I'm done. With payroll? With holding it up. He did not ask what I meant. Good supervisors know when a sentence is bigger than the office. I submitted the batch at 11:58. At noon, Elaine called. Voss sent the correction. What does it say? She read it clean and flat. The rent demand issued to Marlene Carter regarding 18 Juniper Hill Road is withdrawn. Leonard Carter is not the owner or property manager. No rent is due. I sat back. No rent is due. Those 4 words did not hug me. They did not make anything soft. They did what they came to do. They removed a hand from my neck. Elaine said, Lake County Mutual sent preservation confirmation too. And Daddy? Leonard has been instructed through Voss not to contact you. Will he listen? No. At 12:03, my phone lit up. Unknown number. Elaine sighed through the line. Is that him? Probably. Don't answer. I won't. The voicemail came a minute later. I forwarded it without playing it. Elaine said, Good. Then my desk phone rang. I looked at the extension. Front reception. I answered. Payroll, this is Marlene. Tina at the front desk sounded careful. There's a Leonard Carter here. Calvin's office door opened across the aisle. I said, He doesn't have an appointment. He says he's your father. I looked at the payroll screen. All those names, all those people who trusted me to make the numbers clean. I said, Tell him I'm unavailable. Tina lowered her voice. He said he'll wait. Calvin was already walking toward me. I'll handle it. I stood. No. I will. Elaine said in my ear, Marlene. I'm not alone, I said. I walked to the front with Calvin 2 steps behind me and Elaine still on the phone. Daddy stood by the reception counter in his brown summer jacket, sweating at the temples. Tina sat very straight behind the desk. He looked past Calvin like Calvin was furniture. Marlene, he said, we need to talk. I stopped behind the employee-only line taped on the floor. All communication goes through Elaine. This is family. No, this is my workplace. His eyes flicked to Tina, then Calvin, then the security camera in the corner. You want to embarrass me in public? I thought of Grandma's kitchen, Sunday plates, the rent bill, people like you. I said, You came here. Calvin said, Sir, you need to leave. Daddy ignored him. After all I did, you'll stand there like some white lawyer owns your mouth? There it was, dressed different but born from the same place. Tina's face went cold. Calvin said, Leave now. Daddy pointed at me. You think that house makes you better? No, I said. It makes me housed. He stared. I continued. And my paycheck makes me paid. Tina picked up the phone. I'm calling building security. Daddy stepped back, not from guilt, from witnesses. He said, You'll regret this. I said, Send it in writing. Calvin moved between us then. Daddy looked at him, then at me, then walked out through the glass doors. His sedan was parked crooked near the loading zone. Of course it was. Tina exhaled. Marlene, I'm sorry. You did right. Calvin turned to me. Go home. This time I did not argue. Elaine was quiet on the phone until I reached my desk. Then she said, That workplace visit matters. I know. Write down every word. I will. And Marlene? Yes. Do not go back to Juniper Hill alone tonight. I looked at the blue folder in my tote. Where should I go? To my office first, she said. Then we decide. I shut down my computer, picked up my purse, and took my corrected payroll notes with me. At the side door, Calvin handed me a printed incident report form. Fill it out in the car if you need to, he said. I will. He hesitated. You've always kept this place straight. I said, I'm learning to include myself. He nodded once. Good. Elaine was waiting outside in the same gray car with the engine running. I got in, buckled my seatbelt, and handed her the incident form. She read the first blank line. Date of occurrence, July 9th, 2026. Time, 12:15 p.m. Location, Medical Supply Warehouse, Main and Bell. She passed me a pen. Write it clean. I did. Daddy's words, Calvin's instruction, Tina's call, the crooked parking, every small fact. When I finished, Elaine looked at the form and nodded. This goes with the rest. The rest keeps growing. Yes. I watched Maple Ridge pass by the window. The church sign at Greater Hope still had Sunday's scripture posted. The same beauty shop was open beside the laundromat. Two women stood outside talking with grocery bags in their hands. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Dwayne. At Elaine's office with register copies. I showed it to her. She said, useful. Not clean. Useful. That was fair. At Elaine's office, Nia met us at the door with a clipboard and a face that said the day had not slowed down. Dwayne Carter is in conference room 2, she said. Marcus Carter called. He says he has the green folder. Elaine looked at me. Do you want to be in the room? I thought about that. Then I shook my head. No. Good. I want copies after. You'll get them. Naya handed me a bottle of water. Ms. Shaw said you'd forget. I don't forget. Elaine said, you deprioritize. I took the water. That's lawyer talk for forget. Elaine went into conference room 2. The door closed. Voices started low behind it. I sat in the waiting area with Grandma's blue folder on my lap and the county envelope tucked inside it. The chair was stiff. The room smelled like paper and lemon cleaner. On the wall, Elaine had framed her license and one black and white photograph of Maple Ridge from before I was born. Nia sat at her desk, typing. After a few minutes, she looked up. Ms. Carter? Yes. My aunt knew your grandmother. That could have become a story, a soft one, a detour. I did not have room for it. I said, a lot of people did. Nia nodded. She said Mrs. Etta May never let anybody leave church hungry. That sounds like her. She also said Mrs. Etta May didn't play about money. I smiled a little. That sounds more like her. The conference room door opened. Dwayne came out first, eyes red but dry. He stopped when he saw me. I gave her everything I had. Good. I'm going to get more from the shop. Do that. He nodded toward the folder. Is that Grandma's? Yes. She knew, didn't she? I held the folder tighter. Enough. Dwayne looked like that answer cost him something. It should have. He said, Daddy's going to say I betrayed him. You told the truth after helping hide it. He nodded. That's what I'll say. Say it to Elaine. I did. He left without asking for a hug. That was his best decision yet. Elaine came out holding the register copies in a sealed sleeve. 36,900 confirmed, she said. Possibly more. Owner contribution? Yes. From me? Using your transfers. I drank the water because my hands needed a task. Elaine sat beside me. Marcus is bringing the green folder in 20 minutes. Do I stay? No, I want you at Juniper Hill before dark with Officer Pierce meeting us there. We're checking the doors, then you're packing a small bag. I'm not leaving my house. I didn't say leave, I said pack. You'll stay if the standby is clean and the patrol route is set. I looked at her. You always sound like this? Like what? Like fear has to make an appointment. She capped her pen. Fear can wait in the hall. For the first time since Sunday, I laughed. Not long, not loud, but enough to hear myself. Elaine stood. Come on, before your father thinks of another building to visit. We reached Juniper Hill at 4:30. Officer Pierce's cruiser sat by the curb, and Mr. Perkins's new locks caught the sun like they had been there for years. The house looked calm. White siding, green shutters, porch chair, no broken glass, no open gate. Officer Pierce met us by the steps. No signs of entry. Elaine asked, any drive-bys? One neighbor saw Leonard's sedan slow down around 3. I said, Mrs. Donnelly? Officer Pierce nodded. She said he parked crooked, then left. Everybody knows that car. Everybody knows crooked, Officer Pierce said. I unlocked the front door myself. Inside, Grandma's house smelled the same. Lemon oil, old wood, toast crumbs still on a plate by the sink because I had left in a hurry. I washed the plate before anything else. Elaine stood in the kitchen doorway. Really? Yes. Officer Pierce smiled but looked away, giving me that small dignity. I dried the plate and put it in the cabinet. Then I walked to the side door and checked the fuse box. The folded rent bill was still inside. I did not take it out. Elaine watched me close the latch. What now? I asked. She held up her phone. Now Marcus is at my office with the green folder. Good. And Voss just sent another message. What does he want? He says Leonard is willing to discuss repayment terms if you agree not to pursue further action. I looked at Grandma's table. Same table, same place. How much? I asked. Elaine read from her screen. He proposes $25,000, payable over 5 years. Officer Pierce made a sound under her breath. I said, $25,000? Yes. For $240,000? And the rest. I sat down at the head of the table, not because my knees failed, because the chair was mine. Tell him no, I said. Elaine typed. No with punctuation? Plain no. She typed, then paused. He also says Leonard wants access to retrieve personal property from the garage. What property? Fishing cooler, 2 toolboxes, old signage from the bait shop. I looked at Officer Pierce. Can that be supervised? Yes. Elaine said, we schedule it. He touches only listed items. I said, and he brings the accounting. Elaine looked up. Good. Officer Pierce nodded. That's clean. Clean. That word had changed shape for me. Clean was not sweet. Clean was witnessed. Clean had dates, names, limits, and somebody writing it down. My phone buzzed on Grandma's table. Elaine saw the number before I did. Marcus, she said. I answered on speaker. Yes. Marcus's voice came through low. I gave Elaine the green folder. She told me. There's a payroll authorization in there. My hand tightened on the table edge. Elaine leaned closer. What kind? Marcus said, not real. Daddy said it was just for his records. It has Marlene's name typed and a signature line. Signed? Elaine asked. No, but there's a sticky note. What does it say? Marcus breathed out. Ask Tanya to trace if needed. The kitchen did not move, but something in it changed. Tanya, not just copies, not just conscience. A hand near the line. Elaine's eyes sharpened. Marcus, stay at my office. Do not leave that folder with anyone but Nia. I know. No, listen. Do not call Tanya. Do not warn her. I won't. I said, Marcus? Yes? Was my signature ever traced? Silence. Then he said, I don't know. That was not no. Elaine ended the call after giving him instructions. Then she turned to me. This is why we don't rush settlement. I looked at the blue folder on the table. Grandma's papers had opened the door. My family's papers kept showing me the rooms. Officer Pierce said, Do you want me to stay while you pack? Yes. I went upstairs to the small bedroom I used, the one with the quilt folded at the foot, and Grandma's sewing table by the window. The drawer that had once been locked sat closed now, harmless because its secret had already done its work. I packed one navy dress, one house dress, 2 blouses, my medicine, and Grandma's letter. Then I stopped and looked at the sewing table. The drawer had held the recording receipt. The folder had held the deed. The house still had other drawers, but I was done being surprised alone. I called down the stairs. Elaine. She came up with Officer Pierce behind her. What is it? I pointed to the sewing table. Before Leonard comes for anything, I want the whole house inventoried. Elaine looked around the room. By a professional? Yes. Officer Pierce said, I know a certified estate appraiser in Akron. Elaine nodded. Tomorrow morning. No delay, I said. No delay, Elaine answered. Documentation. I touched Grandma's letter through the folder. Downstairs, the late sun crossed the kitchen floor. The phone rang again, Elaine's this time. She answered, listened, and put it on speaker. Nia's voice said, Ms. Shaw, Marcus stayed. He wants you to hear this with Ms. Carter present. Marcus came on the line. I found the sticky note under the folder flap. It's Daddy's handwriting. Elaine said, read it. Marcus swallowed. It says, make it look like she agreed before the first rent notice. I closed my eyes once, not to cry, to count. Rent first, fake consent second, bank file under it, my pay above it, Grandma's house around all of it. Daddy had not reacted to losing control. He had built a paper bridge before I even knew I was standing over water. Elaine said, Nia, seal it. Marcus signs the intake log. Nobody touches the note barehanded. Yes, ma'am. The call ended. Officer Pierce looked at me. Ms. Carter, you want that garage retrieval postponed? I looked at the side door, at the fuse box, at Grandma's kitchen chair. No, I said. I want him to come where witnesses are. Elaine studied my face. Marlene. He billed me at this table. He can collect his cooler from my garage with a list in his hand. Officer Pierce nodded slowly. I can be here. Elaine put her phone away. Then tomorrow, 4 p.m., supervised retrieval. Estate inventory in the morning. Fraud review gets the sticky note today. I sat at the head of Grandma's table and wrote it down in my payroll notebook. Inventory. 10 a.m., garage retrieval. 4 p.m., accounting due. No more transfers. I underlined that last line once. Elaine stood beside me. You ready to lock up? I looked around Grandma's kitchen. The blue folder sat under my palm. The new keys were in my pocket. The rent bill was outside in the fuse box, folded but not forgotten. Not yet, I said. I got up, opened the cabinet above the sink, and took down Grandma's old glass sugar bowl. It had been empty since Sunday because nobody in that family needed more sweetness from me. I washed it, dried it, and set it in the center of the table. Elaine watched. What's that for? Receipts, I said. Then I took the spare new key meant for Elaine, placed it inside the bowl, and slid it toward her. She picked it up. I'll hold it. I know. Officer Pierce stepped out to check the yard. Elaine stayed by the table. For a minute, neither of us spoke. Then my phone buzzed with one more message from an unknown number. I read it once. You were always living off us. I showed it to Elaine. She took a photo of the screen. Forward it. I did. Then I typed back nothing. No defense. No paragraph, no wound offered up for him to chew on. I locked the front door when we left. On the porch, the evening air was thick and warm, and Mrs. Donnelly's curtain moved across the street. Elaine walked to her car. Officer Pierce waited by the cruiser. I stayed one extra second by the railing. Inside that house, the table was set for the next reckoning. Not plates, papers. A sugar bowl with a key missing from my pocket and held by somebody who knew what it meant. Tomorrow, Daddy would come back for what he claimed was his. This time, there would be a list.